We've done it. Glory be and mercy me. We've done it yet again. How you guys doing today? I gotta tell you, man, a beautiful day today. I finally had, if you follow this channel for any length of time, you know that I have lots of trouble sleeping. I don't sleep well. Last night, I had a beautiful sleep last night, man. Last night was just like I was having like kind of the regular sleep, everything was fine, and then I woke up in the morning and I was like more comfortable than I had ever been in my life. It was so good, and I just like stayed in bed. So cozy, dude. Just cozy is the word, man. And then I got up, did some recording, which is very nice. I'm working on a project right now. I'm always trying to work on voice projects, even if I don't think they're going to pay out that well, and I don't think this one's going to pay out that well. I always want to be doing something, always recording, always getting involved in that kind of stuff. And hopefully I'll finish it not tomorrow, but the day after. And and then I just like did the research for the day, chilled out, did the recordings. Hey Eric, how you doing, bud? Hope you're feeling well. Hope you're feeling well, bud. So for me, feeling good. Even though today's video is about Canadian eugenics, turns out workout is completely out of the question for now because of COVID. I tried doing jumping jacks for 3 minutes. I nearly fainted. Yeah, dude. Sounds to me like COVID is, because of the conversation we had last night, I did a little bit of research on my own, and there's a lot of long-term effects that are coming with COVID, and some people get really hit with it. Some people get really hit with it. Streaming the stream. Good to see you, Barnabas. Good to see you, bud. Already, right? We're not even into summer proper. Toronto has recorded a new temperature high for May 31st. The city's last recorded the highest temperature for that day in 1944. 31.1 Celsius, data from Environment Canada shows. We're getting to a point now where, even the people, like the bankers, right, the people who are incentivized completely to keep this, they're, being open about what's going to happen, right? They know there's going to be fires. They know there's going to be devastation. They know, right? They just don't really care, you know? They just don't really care because they think they're not going to be affected by it. Still cold here in BC. Oh, that'll change, oddity. That'll change. Some of the hottest temperatures in Canada happen in British Columbia. I tried driving yesterday. Long story short, I'm unable to drive. It's too much for my COVID brain, man. That's really rough, Eric, man. It's really, really rough. No, I completely forgot about this article, actually. Eric, let me... is it in the General? Is it in the Gen? No, it should be in the articles, right? I completely forgot. You know me, bud. Here you go. Yeah, you had mentioned yesterday, I recall. You wanted me to read this. Is it, how long are we looking at here, bud? If it's 50 pages. That doesn't actually look too bad. Ugh. Although I feel like it's I'm just going to do a quick Cliff's Notes of this. Symptoms after having COVID-19. According to current research, your chances of having ongoing symptoms after COVID-19 are higher if you're female. Weird. Between the ages of 40 or 60, you've had mental health problems in the past. Other chronic problems, yeah. Getting vaccinated against COVID-19 lowers your chances of developing ongoing symptoms by lowering your chances of becoming infected. Hey Watson, how you doing, bud? Ugh. This is look at this list. This is just a laundry list of your body is falling apart. Trouble breathing, shortness of breath, cough, fatigue, trouble concentrating, brain fog or memory problems, feeling stressed, anxious or worried, feeling sad or depressed, withdrawal from friends and activities, trouble sleeping, loss of appetite, nausea and vomiting, loss of smell or taste, diarrhea and constipation. Diarrhea and constipation? How does that work? How can you both have diarrhea and constipation at the same time? How the heck does that work? That doesn't work at all. That's the weirdest thing. chest pain, tightness or heart palpitations, joint or muscle pain, symptoms that get worse after physical activity, loss or grief, hair loss. Ugh. Like, bro, this is ridiculous. Like, I feel like a lot of these symptoms are just like, are you suffering from late-stage capitalism? You may experience fatigue, cough, feeling stressed. Like, how much of this is actually COVID related and how much of this is just like being alive today? Hey, Nova Scotia Mocked, how you guys doing? Frankfurter General newspaper in reference to Azov Battalion and Mariupol. Oh, the heroes of Ukraine in Moscow's clutches. My God. The amount of times, like, look, I don't mind if people are like talking about the Ukrainian military and they're saying like, because you know it's like you pick a side, right? I don't mind if you're picking the side and you're like the Ukrainian military heroes, right? Like fine, I don't agree obviously, but like I get why you're doing it. But to say that of the Azov Battalion, like you know these guys are Nazis, like they're Nazis, like it's fucked up, like it's fucked up. Like, why report on the Azov Battalion like this? You know, like I would more anticipate that they just wouldn't talk about them, right? Just like don't talk about Azov would be the general plan. But to actually stand up and be like, hey, Nazis, heroes, it's gross. Like it's super fucking gross. Yeah. So I'm actually pretty light today in regards to how many articles and news I have, because honestly, like I feel like everybody's just kind of holding their breath. Here in Ontario, that's how it feels. There's like a sense of cloying desperation happening here in Toronto and Ontario generally. People are more or less bewildered that Doug Ford's going to get in again, given his cruelty and incompetence. I think it's pretty shocking to find out that like 40% of Ontarians support like no total team coverage for the election. Like, why? Why? Like, I don't know what to tell you, Watson. Like, why? We're all gonna go to bed and wait. Like, do we need to actually watch it happen in real time? Like, do you need like this super big breakdown? Like, we know what's happening. It's the 905. It's suburbia, right? Your Karens and your Kens who don't care about anything other than themselves, right? Living out in suburbia, driving everywhere, wanting to live in like a detached dream world, voting for Doug Ford because he's going to make their commute half hour lighter or something, right? Like, and they don't care about anything else other than this. Like, I've seen these people, like, these are the people who mock the disabled openly, right? These are the people who like, allow their children to make fun of disabled people. Like, I've seen all this, right? Like, Ontario is just littered with these despicable troll-like Karens and Kens, right? That's just who they are. And this election is just, like, making it solid, right? Like, there's no other excuse for it. Like, that's the thing, right? Like, what's the possible rationale? And, like, even when they say their stuff, like, even if you ask, like, a conservative, I've seen it, right? You ask conservatives, like, why are you voting for Doug Ford? And it's literally just a litany of abandonment, right? Like, I thought that people should, like they'll literally say, like, they think disabled people should just get jobs and stuff like this. Like, it's just a litany of abandonment. And cluelessness, just total cluelessness. Mocked, I thought you were referring about. That's funny. Here's something. Have you noticed there's at least 3 right-wing kook splinter parties vying for the same vote? The True Blue, the Ontario, and the Populist Party? Provincial PPC? Yeah, I've seen that. They're not very powerful, obviously, right? And one of them, I forget which one, was started because Doug Ford kicked one of his conservative members voted against him on something, and so he kicked her out of the caucus. and she started her own party. I think that's the Ontario Party. And like, when I see them, like, they're just moderate conservatives, right? Like, there are still conservatives who don't want to abandon people. Like, that's the reality. It's just pretty shocking that that there's so much support behind, like, just this reprehensible loser, basically, like an overt, obvious con man who clearly doesn't care about anything other than his wallet. Like, it's really, really obvious. And the fact that these guys say that, like, Doug Ford's a good person tells you, like, how reprehensible they are, right? Like, it's shocking to watch, actually. Like, it's like, Doug Ford's record is probably one of the worst in the history of Ontario. Like, it's absolutely brilliant. I don't care if disabled make the same as abled person. Yeah, give these people a life. Yeah, I know what you mean, Barnabas. Like, why are we earning anything, right? Why are we earning anything? Like what's this concept of earn it, right? Like, what are you talking about? Nobody asked to be here, right? Like, there's no, like, this idea of earning it. It's like the most childish and reductive way of looking at the world that you can possibly look at. You're literally just saying subserviate yourself to a death cult that's actually going to burn the society down. Like, it's shocking. The Ontario Party is Derek Sloan, right? The True Blue Party is the one you're talking about. If you read all three platforms, it's essentially the same thing. I mean, Derek Sloan is like, Derek Sloan is so far to the right that the Conservatives had to kick him out. They were right to kick him out too. Like, the guy's basically like at least a Nazi sympathizer. Like, I mean, it's pretty brutal. So the people who are supporting the Ontario Party is obviously going to be your, like, extreme far right, like, and like, but of course they're not going to put down, like, we're neo-Nazis. Like, they're not going to write that down. Yeah. Well, I mean, the PPC stuff's popular, right? It's as simple as that. And I'm more or less of the opinion, I say this all the time about the PPC, I'm more or less of the opinion that the PPC are popular because, and the reason why the Conservatives are swinging this way is because they're actually saying that there's a problem, right? They're not pretending as though everything's hunky dory. It's just their solutions are ridiculous, like, dumb when you even, like, casually glance at them, right? Like, this idea that the solution is to just do capitalism harder, right? Like, oh yeah, let's take the system that fails and, like, overtly fails in significant ways constantly, and just do more of that. Yeah, okay, that'll do it. Like, it's just kind of embarrassing. And you know, like, this is kind of where I'm landing with this particular election. It's just like we're hopeless. Like, we're totally hopeless. Like, no, watching that HSBC banker guy yesterday basically say, like, they don't plan, they don't think of anything further than, like, 6 years, really. Like, it's just like, we're hopeless, man. Like, this society is collapsing in significant ways. And so it's just about enjoying yourself as much as you can, right? Like, there is no plan. There's nobody even trying to make a plan. Nobody's even attempting, like, everybody's just attempting to make as much money for themselves as they possibly can. And the result of it is going to be complete disaster. Because if you, like, don't create a system or a plan or an idea or even a vision, right, then it's going to be a catastrophe. Like, and that's just by definition. So we're just sort of dealing with it. Yeah, they don't say they support Nazis, but will definitely fund Nazi groups. I mean, Derek Sloan is super far right. Like, there's no debating it. Well, it's right-wing contrived outrage. The fact of the matter is that the rise of the right is really the result of the abject failure of the so-called left. Yeah, I hate it when people say that there's, like, who are these leftists you're talking about? I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I think there are a couple that exist in the NDP, like, but the NDP itself is not that. Like, what was the NDP MP wants to label NRA directors as terrorists. Charlie Angus. I rather like Charlie Angus, I gotta tell you. Anytime I hear him talk, I'm like, oh yeah, makes sense why people like him. Like, he's and he's right. Like, the NRA directors should be, like, they're a terrorist organization without a doubt. Like, absolutely doing everything they can to ensure that more mass death is spread throughout America for money, right? Like, but like, there's no left parties. Like, they don't really exist. Certainly not federally, right? Like, Jagmeet Singh is a total sellout. Even his own base, and I don't mean the NDP. I mean literally, like, literally his own, like, the Sikh community is beginning to turn against Jagmeet Singh. I'm reading articles. Do I have one? Do I have it right in front of me? Is it was this the article? Like, even the Sikh community is beginning to turn on Jagmeet Singh, right? Like, it's because he stands for nothing. He's not trying to achieve any goals, right? His goal is to be the leader of the NDP. That's it, right? And he's not actually fighting for anything. He's not trying to improve the quality of life. Condon, hey John, might not be here for the whole stream hanging with the BF. That's fine. Bring the BF in, right? Come on down. Yeah, by the way, if anyone thinks the rise of the PPC is organic and not heavily astroturf, they probably need to get their heads checked. Yeah, I mean, like, we all know how this goes, right? We all know how this goes. That once the center or even, like, moderate right begins to collapse because their lies are more and more obvious, right? Well, then the business class, the industrialists, begin to fund more extreme elements in order to galvanize the anger of the populace and swing it to their side, right? Like, that's essentially the rise of the Nazi Party in Germany. That, like, if it wasn't for the industrialists actively funding Hitler, he would have gone nowhere, right? So, like, yeah, like, the PPC is ultimately going to continue, and Pierre Poilievre is doing what he can to sort of get those guys back, right? And he may be successful to a degree. I actually think that Pierre Poilievre is going to be fairly successful because he's sort of figured it out, right? Like, lie. Just lie. PC USA, it's the true continuation of Marxist theory in America. Singh is a lawyer, pretty bourgeoisie, yeah. Angus blocked me because of something I said about his vote to bomb Libya. Yeah. I mean, this is the other thing. Like, this is how you know the NDP are totally full of shit, right? Like, here, hold on. I'm getting attacked by this. You know the NDP is totally full of shit because of how they vote in terms of foreign affairs, right? Like, they can stand up and be like, oh, we need to protect the people and we need to help the workers and all this kind of stuff and, like, pound on the pulpit. But at the end of the day, they vote for the war machine, right? They just like, CR Strifey, I'm not sure about automatic entitlement to a life without strife or hardship having to earn it. Animals are born having to shelter and defend themselves. First of all, we're not animals, right? We're not. We have skills, right? That like, we have the ability to enter abstract spaces to solve problems in major and abstract ways. And if it was just the problem-solving aspect of it, we've already solved all of those problems, right? Like, what we're doing is we're saying arbitrarily to specific groups of people that, oh, well, they have to earn it, while the people who are born into wealth and privilege don't, right? Like, that's the core central problem with what's going on, right? Like, it's destructive. That's the problem, right? Like, it's not enough to just say, like, oh, well, go work for the rich class, right, and everything will be fine. Because the rich class does everything they can to destroy the society, and they are destroying the society, right? It's getting pretty straightforward and pretty obvious. Like, we don't have an out here. the only real out, right? Life is founded on greed and desire. Life knows no satiety or contentment. It is destructive. Right, so because, like, this idea kind of kills me, right? Like, because life is destructive, that means that we can just wash our hands of our own destruction, right? Even though we have the capacity and have the ability to overcome, right? Like, essentially all of these arguments that are put forward are saying humans have a skill set that we shouldn't use. That's the fundamental basis of your entire argument. That we have the ability to enter the abstract space, we have the ability to have communal communication, we have the ability to make decisions, to see evidence, to create plans and ideas, and we shouldn't do it. I just reject this idea completely as foolishness, right? Like we have these abilities. And whether you believe we have these abilities because of a divine deity or whatever, or that we gained them through evolutionary growth or whatever, we have these abilities, right? We should use them. And we should use them for the benefit of the mass of the people and for everyone involved. And if that means that we have all of this shelter and everyone just gets shelter for being alive and food is distributed easily and there's no complaint about this and education is free and all of this and people don't have to quote unquote earn it, there's all kinds of things that you don't earn in your life. There's all kinds of things, right? Everyone just needs to stop. Of course it's easier said than done. No, of course it's easier said than done. We're addicted. Like, it's difficult for addicts to stop acting like addicts. Like, of course it's easier said than done, right? But that doesn't mean we should try to not do it. Like, because it's what needs to happen. Like, whether we like it or not. And like this is my point. Like, it's going to happen whether we like it or not, right? Like, we run out of oil, right? So the plan for humanity is either actively admit and say out loud to each other constantly with an understanding that we've got to stop, and so we should create a series of plans and initiatives and ideas and face the stopping full on with awareness, using the skill set that we have in order to do it, or we just ram into the wall as hard as we possibly can. No plan whatsoever, just scattershot, right? And stop that way. So I'm here to encourage us to actually have a plan and make up an idea and communicate with one another about how to do it, right? And like, cease participating in this nonsense, because it's nonsense. It's obviously nonsense. And like, I think the worst part about it is that the ruling class has gone psychotic. That's the worst part about it. Like literally the people at the highest echelon. Like, for God's sakes, I was showing that video yesterday, and the title, I think his name was like Stuart something, and his title was like President of Responsible Investing. And the guy's the most irresponsible psychopath I've ever heard any banker ever say. Like, literally saying, like, yeah, we don't, like, what's this idea of, like, so this place is going to be underwater in 100 years. Who cares? Right? Yeah, there's going to be wildfires, right? Who cares? Like, they don't give a shit at all. Like, they're not interested in making a plan. They're not interested in stopping this nonsense, right? Like, we're completely ruled by psychos. And there's no reason, and the only way that we can actually stop is if we admit that we have to, and stop listening to these overt, grifting, terrorist psychopaths who obviously are trying to destroy the place so that they can get a hold of something we created in the first place, which was money. Like, I find this entire principle of, like, needing to quote-unquote earn it to be just absurd. And it's and it gets more and more absurd the more and more you think about it. We didn't build the roads. We didn't build the electrical grid. We didn't build the hydroelectric dams, right? We inherited them. We don't earn those, right? We just have them, right? And that's how the human project goes. We gain all kinds of privileges. We gain all kinds of stuff that we just accept as, oh, that's just here. But when you actually investigate it for even 2 minutes, you realize, like, oh, like, our ancestors literally gave this to us. It's an enormous gift that nobody earned. And we could do the same not only for ourselves, but for future generations. But instead of doing that, but you gotta earn it. And if you can't earn it, then you're gonna be homeless on the streets. It's a waste. It's a total fucking waste is what it is. Right? You're just wasting generations and generations of people with this moronic, childish idea that people need to earn it. Like, what the fuck are you even talking about? We literally created an agricultural system. 100 years ago, it was 80% of the workforce worked in agriculture because they had to. And then what did we do? We created a system of agriculture. We automated the system largely. And now it's literally 2 to 5% of the populace. Right? And instead of saying, oh, hey, we've freed people up from labor. Now they can live in leisure and make art and imagine a better world and create ideas and actually do something meaningful in the world. Or we could come together and work on big, giant projects and do interesting stuff and explore the universe and explore the environment and all this kind of stuff. Nah, you gotta go work in a bullshit job for 5 cents an hour because you gotta earn it. You gotta earn it. And if you don't earn it, then you're done. It's fucking stupid. It's stupid and it's childish. Like, we could have an amazing society. Like, we literally could be right now amidst just an enormous golden age. But instead of that, we get Jeff Bezos shooting rockets at space. He doesn't even go to space. This is the most bullshit part about it, right? Just like literally shooting rockets at space. Like, he doesn't even have the balls to go to space because he's too much of a fucking bullshit idiot. Like, people are going to look back on this period of time and be like, wow, these guys were fucking morons. And we are. And we are. Like, this place could be so much better. And so much better easily. It would be easy to make this place so much better. But we got to, oh, there's 10 billionaires, guys. Those 10 billionaires, they really fucking matter. Right? Those 10 billionaires, you know, hey, those guys were born with money. They earned it. They earned it. Right? Like, we're just suffering from an extreme mental illness and an addiction. It's pretty clear. Like, fucking brutal. And honestly, it's just like, there just comes a point where it's just simping. That's all it is. It's just fucking bullshit simping. You're just jerking off to the idea of being dominated by Daddy Bezos. That's all. Like, you just have like a weird little subby kink. It's just gross. And like willing to burn down the whole fucking society over it. Just brutal. Ugh. Can we get some hackers together and just take their money and redistribute it to the poor? They have many more smarter hackers working as team businesses for years already. Yeah, some randos doing that would have a bad time. I suspect that's true. I suspect what's necessary is a general strike set around specific demands and not some one-day protest to blow off steam that goes nowhere. Yeah, but I mean, like, even some, like, we saw what Occupy, like, we saw what happened with Occupy. They basically ignored it, right? They basically just went, wow, isn't that interesting, right? Because Occupy was, like, first of all, it was in, they put it in Zuccotti Park in the middle of a city instead of surrounding the White House, right? Like, these so the politicians didn't feel threatened, right? Like, they didn't feel scared or anything. They didn't feel like they had to do anything. So it's just business as normal. And the psychopath class just laughed it off, right? But, like, that is what needs to happen. Like, we need to surround the halls of power. It's just like America's ruling class. We don't know why our society is so violent. Also, money was for no health care for Ukraine. Why raise minimum? Yeah, their values are so effed. No, yeah. Like, we are inverted. Our worldview is inverted, and you can see that all over the place. Like, the easiest example of the inversion of our worldview is that, like, it's just like Mortal Kombat. I've said this over and over again, right? You can see any grotesque act you want in, like, slow motion, X-ray vision. You can see people pulling out each other's intestines, like all kinds of gross shit, right? But if there was a topless woman everyone will lose their fucking mind, right? Everyone would lose their fucking mind. I mean, Occupy didn't fizzle. It was systematically expunged, right? Like, it really was the moment when people should have realized, like, oh, this is a police state. Like, they just cleared the encampments. And not surprisingly, like, the encampments that were more resilient have fared better and have persisted. And, like, the Los Angeles one, for example. Earning it also basically lets everyone abandon people, and everyone just keeps trying to learn the same thing over and over again for nothing. How to survive, how to live and balance it all. Well, and most importantly, like, earning it just capitulates all your power to the psychopath class, right? Like, to me, it's not really much different than, like, a dom with a riding crop, right? Oh, you want food? Smack. Earn it. Smack. Like, that's what it is. Like, it's complete discipline, the working class. Like, that's all, right? Telling people that they got to earn it is a disciplinary measure. It's a form of gaslighting, right? Like, what are you even fucking talking about? It's just a way for one group of people to commit dominance and power over another group of people, right? And nothing pisses me off more than the natural argument. Like, we have natural skills and natural abilities that we are being told not to use, right? We can have collective conversations and solve problems in the abstract space, and we're actively being told not to use them, right? Fuck this natural argument. Get the fuck out of here. If we were actually acting with the natural skills that we actually had, we'd be solving these problems, right? Animals, right? If you want to make the comparison to animals use the skills they have to solve the problems that they have in front of them, right? And we're being told actively to not use our skills, right? Just sacrifice everything to the free fucking market, right? Let chaos reign. It's total fucking bullshit. It's ridiculous. I suspect many people don't even consider how our political system operates. They simply keep their head down and go on their day. Yesterday I was talking to my aunt, and I was talking about politics, and the stuff that they're saying are stuff that she's never heard of, yeah? And her words, she discussed more politics in a 30-minute conversation than she did in her whole life. Yeah, I mean, that's part of the problem, right? Like, people think, like, I know people who, like, watch CNN and they think that they're engaging in politics, and it's like the opposite. It's like it's anti-politics, right? Like, politics is about talking to one another and coming to conclusions and finding middle grounds, right? And if you can't find middle ground, to fight about it, right? That's politics. Lying to people about what's going on, right? Being duplicitous, creating these counter narratives. It's apolitical. It's not political. It's theatrical, right? You're creating a false reality and deceiving people into believing that it's a reality. And so everybody becomes like a fucking Truman Show sap, where they think they're engaging in reality, but they're not. They're engaging in this fake bullshit. And then if somebody shows up and actually starts to talk to them about politics in any kind of meaningful or serious way, they don't know how to handle it because they've never really grown up and they've never actually engaged in a political conversation in their entire life, right? They're stuck in this Fox News, CNN bullshit, right? And this is literally anybody who's like, the problem is the Republicans, the problem is the Democrats. Like, if you're engaging in the process of the theater, then you're not doing politics, right? Straight up, it's not politics. If a movement surrounds the halls of power, they will be ordained terrorist hate groups by the media, of course, and politicians and the gullible zealots at home will eat up that spin with a spoon. I mean, that's, Matthias, that's not a guarantee. Like, when the Occupy movement happened, people were generally supportive of that movement. The reason why we kind of have this attitude is because the most recent protest movements have been the Freedom Convoy. But the Freedom Convoy worked really hard to alienate the public, right? Like, the narratives coming out of the Liberal Party that they're far-right groups and like and all this kind of stuff, like, that was somewhat effective. But what was far more effective was that the Freedom Convoy itself was just full of assholes, right? Like, Say what you like. They did everything they could to alienate the people of of Ottawa. They did everything they could to make it really clear that they wanted to be annoying, right? Like, just on a basic human level, people are not going to support that kind of stuff. Similar to Occupy fizzling out, former spokesperson of XR has said that the movement has stopped growing. I mean, my opinion is that Extinction Rebellion went through some shit and kind of shot themselves in the ass, honestly. Like, it's difficult for a movement to grow if nobody knows what you're doing or where you are or what's happening, right? Like, or if you even exist anymore. Anytime I go on the Extinction Rebellion website, like, I'm trying to find out what they're doing, and I never know, right? So I wouldn't be too surprised to find out that Extinction Rebellion got, like, kiboshed from the inside. Like, I never know what they're doing. I never know what's up, right? In an ideal society, it would be more contributing than earning. But because of the wealthy hierarchy, we're more like slaves. Yeah, that's just it. And, like, there's been a shift in what work is, right? Like, if you go back 1,000 years, work is like lifting rocks and, like, mining with pickaxes and shit, right? And agricultural work, right? All like working with your hands and all this. But we, like, created machines, right? We have these enormous industrialized machines that one of these machines does more work than 1 million men, like, could do in a year in a single day. Like, it's insane to believe that we need to maintain this old way of thinking about what is labor and what does contributing mean. What does it mean to contribute, right? Like, what kind of society do you want? This is why I say over and over again, we're in a crisis of imagination. We're in a crisis of imagination. Like, there are people who are like, if you give people a basic income, or if people, they'll just be lazy and sit around and play video games all day. And it's like, video games is like a multi-billion-dollar, like, Twitch streaming is a multi-billion-dollar, like, people make their living playing video games, right? Does that mean they're not contributing? Does that mean they're lazy? Does that, but like, what's the alternative for these people, right? And, like, we begin to kind of question the very concept of, like, well, what does it mean to earn a living, or what does it mean to contribute, and what is it, like, what is that contribution? And frankly, in a society that's geared to suicide in the manner that our society is geared to suicide itself, not participating is itself contributing, right? Not contributing to the addiction, not contributing to the parasitic nature of it, not contributing to the self-immolation and the destruction. That's probably the best contribution that you can do, to cease participation in this complete and total madman show that's obviously going to lead to total devastation, right? And, like, anybody who's thinking, like, there's gonna be, like this is the thing that's so funny about the rich people, right? Is that they think they're gonna be untouched because they've never faced consequences in their life. Like, they're gonna get touched, man. Like, it's gonna fucking happen. Famines fuck over rich people too. Like, I don't know what world these guys are living in, right? And, like, but the concept that there's gonna be, like, if 1 million people show at these people's doors, like, I don't care how well armed they are. Like, I don't care how well, like, how many security guards you have, right? Like, and this is the world that they're building for themselves, because they're so fucking evil and psychotic and lacking even the most basic desire to even create a plan, right? And they admit it. They just admit it, that they're not even interested in making a plan. They don't care. There's literally no one in the entire structure who's even attempting to, like, pull out a map and be like, oh, okay, so this is what's happening here, so over this period of time this will grow, which means over here. None of that. It doesn't exist, right? It doesn't exist. And because of this, just, like, sacrificing everything to the god of chaos, we're just going to eat it, right? We're just going to eat it. So not contributing to this is the best form of, or not participating, rather, is the best contribution that you can do. Like, if the problem is you're doing too many drugs, then stopping doing drugs is the thing to do. Like, I always get in trouble for making my job easier. It's like the goal is to make you work harder. Yeah. No, the suffering is the point, Barnabas. Like, that's the long and short of it. The suffering is the point. I've been thinking about this for some time. I don't think we can change things without breaking the law and committing crime. What are these laws you're talking about? Suicidal cultures don't have laws. John, let's talk theory. How is the Bureau of the Government setting prices authoritarian? Please, first of all, I don't like this word authoritarian because it's always used by capitalists to mean they created a rule and followed it. Authoritarian. How authoritarian? They created a rule and they followed it. Like, we should create rules and follow them, right? Like, it seems to me to be a very adult, grown-up thing to do, right? To make a rule, to set boundaries, and then follow those boundaries, right? Like, and of course, like, chaotic death knights are going to call it things like authoritarian because they're losers, right? Like, and, no, I mean, but this idea that the government is actually going to manage to set prices, like, that's not going to happen. The Chaos Death Knights have too much control. So, we should do it, obviously, because, like, the idea is to create a stable system, right? Is to create a system that's actually like, oh, everyone has access to it. It's providing, like, at least, like, a bare subsistence existence where everyone has access to food and shelter, right? Like, it's incapable of collapsing down to, like, starvation level and homeless level. Like, that's not possible, and we could achieve that systemically, but it would require grown-up adults who actually understand that we're ruled by psychopaths, like, to actually seize power, right? We're just not there. Speaking of Dom stuff, watch out Angie Speaks video titled "The Problem with Critical Race Theory." It's pretty good. All right. Most politicians are lawyers who are trained to lie. I mean, the trouble with our democracy is that it's a popularity contest. That's all. You don't need to actually be competent or intelligent or understand how the system even works, understand history. You don't even need to be interested in doing the job in any way that really matters. The only thing you have to achieve to become a politician is that you have to convince more people to vote for you than them. Like, that's it. And the easiest way to do that in this society is to pay fealty to the billionaire class who just bombards the airwaves and the newspapers with your face and name, right? Like, Machiavelli was right. Name recognition's the number one thing. If people know who you are, right, or if they've seen your face or they see your name, they're far more likely to support you, right? And the best way to do that is just pay fealty to a billionaire, right? And because, like, the billionaires don't need to, like, go after communists. They don't need to go after people anymore, right? They just need to never talk about them and never platform them, right? Never publish their stuff. Just chase them out of the conversation completely by simply ignoring them, right? And all you got to do is win this popularity contest, and then you can destroy the place, right? And there's no system to stop you. And like, it's the reason why, like, this concept of democracy, or this iteration of democracy, is destined to fail because it's structured to do so. Biden's subservience to finance capital here, yeah, not shocking. Fulfills his "nothing will fundamentally change" drivel. Yeah. To his Wall Street donors 2 years ago. Yeah. No, absolutely. Like, and this idea that they're even interested in combating high inflation, like, they don't care. Like, they don't care. Like, why would they care? It doesn't matter to the billionaire class, not really. In fact, the billionaire class is benefiting from it. So why would they ever want to change it? Like, they don't care if it renders millions of people homeless. Like, since when they haven't cared yet. Like, the United States has over 600,000 people homeless. They don't care. Like, why are they going to start caring all of a sudden? It's a monopoly in the USA. They choose social issues to divide the working class, then go back to chambers, light cigars, and laugh as they squabble while they legislate everything away. Yeah. Like, the United States system is explicit. Like, it exists only to divide spoils. Like, that's all it's for. It's just so corporations can be like, okay, we get these people and these resources, and you get these people and these resources. That's it. And, like, now, though, we're getting to a point where there's, like, a newer generation that's moving in. Like, this new generation of psychopaths, right? Like, your Matt Gaetz, your Marjorie Taylor Greens, right? Like, these people. Like, and they literally do not understand how the system works. Like, they like, the current... This guy here, Jerome Powell, he is essentially admitting that he is illiterate with the statements that he's making. Like, this is absurdism writ large. This isn't a political, like, disagreement. This isn't just like, well, we have an idea and we think we're going. This is literally the head of the Federal Reserve standing up and saying, our goal is to collapse the economy. That's what he's saying. Like, these people are deeply stupid and deeply illiterate. And the collapse of the civil society occurs because of morons like this. Like, this is a moronic thing to believe, that the way to build a strong economy is to reduce wages. How stupid do you have to be? Like, it's obviously the way to destroy the economy, right? Nobody has any wealth. Nobody has any money. Why? Because you lowered wages, dum-dum, right? Oh, you want a stronger economy. That means everybody has more prosperity and wealth. Well, what's a surefire way to do that? Raise everybody's wages, right? Real straightforward shit. Like, these people are fucking stupid. Like, stupid. And completely self-interested. Like, someone like Doug Ford, like, he's incompetently moronic and completely self-interested. It's absolutely brutal. John, can you also explain to me, a dumb worker, how needing to work for a rich person is free? Yeah, unbelievable, eh? This idea that freedom is subserviating yourself to the death cult. Like, oh, but you're free to pick which master you want, right? Like, the one would assume that any concept of freedom would actually say you're free to literally do what you want. Like, that's the only meaningful concept of freedom. That any capitulation of freedom would be well justified as necessary. Right? Like, literally, we need garbage collectors. We just need somebody to pick up the garbage. So what we're going to do is we're going to create, like, a schedule, right? And we'll cycle you in, right? One day a month, you're responsible for collecting garbage, right? Like, pretty basic, low-level organizational shit, right? But that's not how it works, right? Instead, we have, a small group of people who work 80 hours a week doing that, while we also have homeless people. And we can't seem to square this circle and be like, hey, how about you take the homeless people, reduce the hours of the garbage collectors, and whoever, right, slot it in, and then everybody makes the same amount of money. Because money only exists as an organizational tool. It's not real. Like, these people walking around and being like, selling yourself to rich people, right? Just get a job. That's freedom. Like, yuck. This brings up an interesting question. If the Freedom Convoy were acting like jerks to Ontario, can we really classify them as peaceful protest? No, they were a peaceful protest. Like, being an asshole does not make you, like, hurting people. Like, physically causing harm, using weapons, property destruction, right? Those are the things that you want to see. Just being an asshole, just being disruptive, right? Like, it doesn't mean you need to support them, but it definitely doesn't suddenly preclude them from being a peaceful protest. What do you got? I agree with Watson. They don't hold back when it comes to preventing a working class. The Freedom Convoy class character was pretty bourgeoisie. Yeah, I work with supporters of it, and I ask them all the time, what working class demands do they make? All I get is they help to end the mandates. Yeah, but ending the mandates was a cry from the ruling class since the beginning of the pandemic. Exactly. Exactly. Well, and yeah, they didn't actually have, outside of, mandates, they came out with something, but it was very vague and not really well done. But that doesn't, I don't think it really mattered for them ultimately. They got what they wanted. These patriotic freedom fighter groups are a North American version of Mussolini's black shirts. Oh, I mean, what do we got? No, not that. Here we go. These Nazi groups don't come out of nowhere, right? With over 42,000 subscribers at the time it was shut down earlier this month, the Western Chauvinist Telegram channel may not have been as sizable by the standards of mainstream social media accounts. Man, I could use 42,000 subscribers. Let's get on it, guys. Like, share, subscribe, right? Tell people I exist. Tell people I exist. Until I've got 42,000 subscribers, until I start seeing some actual communist channels that have the type of support that neo-Nazi groups can get, I did not support the convoy, though when you consider how Occupy narrative shifted to lazy people time to move on, even from leftist media outlets, eventually the government and media spins the movement again. I mean, my feeling about the Freedom Convoy was very straightforward, that it was, we never actually had an honest conversation about it as people. We never actually talked about them honestly. The liberal government never actually interacted with them honestly. There was no, just on a basic, forget about, if you can, right? Forget about the ideological aspect about it, right? Forget about the fact that they're basically petit bourgeois, right? Forget about the fact that they're heavily invested in the capitalist system. Forget about the fact that they're purporting, they're supporting capitalism. Forget about all the isms and the ideology and all of this, right? At the end of the day, these guys are just pissed off truckers. That's it, right? They're not sitting there being talking about communism, and if they do talk about communism, it's in the dumbest way you can imagine, right? That Trudeau communist, right? Literally, this is what you get from these guys. So they're not thinking about themselves and the world around them that way. They're literally, quite straightforwardly, just dumb, white, entitled, angry men. That's the bulk of that movement. And, but stating it that way doesn't mean that we should dismiss them, right? And that's essentially what I saw. I saw just kind of a big dismissal of it. And I'm like, no, we should engage these guys and we should talk to them. And because that's actually what politics is. Right, is actually talking to these groups and attempting to find inroads and attempting to find a way to, if possible, foment some kind of, if not peace or if not agreement, then some kind of understanding, right, or some kind of tolerance of one another, right? But the Trudeau government didn't even send an ambassador. They didn't even talk to these guys, right? Literally, they went from no communication whatsoever to evoking the most far-right legislation that's on the books, right? The Emergencies Act, bringing that hammer down, was a huge, aggressive, in my life, I've never seen something more aggressive done. It is very aggressive. And the idea that it happened without any conversation whatsoever, get fucked. Get fucked. They're still people. They're still fucking people. And obviously they're mad. And obviously they're upset. And obviously they don't know how to articulate themselves. But they're still fucking people. This is the thing that I think is getting lost in all of this. Those people are Canadian citizens who obviously wanted to have a larger conversation that they never got. Right? That they never got. The right-wing libertarians have no qualms about authoritarianism when it comes to maintaining the primacy of market and an idealized conception of capitalism. Yeah, I mean, libertarians, like, their whole thing is just subserviate yourself to capitalism, right? But that's freedom. And only the capitalists truly matter since they generate all the value in our society. Like, it's amazing, right? Like, this idea. If all of the capitalists suddenly vanished, no one would care, right? I actually think it would be a net gain for the society, right? But if the workers stopped, it would be a disaster. And the pandemic is proof positive, right? We weren't calling the fucking capitalists heroes, right? We weren't applauding for the capitalists over that period of time, right? Like, nobody gave a shit about them, right? Rightfully so. They're worthless. They're just parasites. And the idea that they're actually putting in any value into the society, like, it's staggeringly dumb to believe this. That a person who does no work, provides no value, right, doesn't actually contribute in any meaningful way outside of providing the money they withhold that they received from their daddy. Like, and then the people who actually do the real work, who are actually doing the work, get denigrated for it. Like, it's stunning. It's actually stunning that the libertarian position is so fucking cruel, vindictive, and childish. Like, for real. It's worship at this point. Like, it's not really an ideology. Like, it's just worship, you know? Like, it's just senselessly stupid. Because it's just a subservience to a group of people who literally would abandon them the second it would be profitable. It's shocking. Ugh. The media are a serious problem. They're supposed to keep politicians accountable and expose corruption, but they are all bought and paid for, simp to their politicians. Yeah. Like, the Toronto Star is a case in point of this, right? The Toronto Star is owned by conservatives, and they simp for Doug Ford. It's pretty straightforward. And, like, all the newspapers are owned. Like, the Washington Post is owned by Jeff Bezos, right? And if it's not, like, a billionaire, then it's the CIA or CSIS, right? Like, there's no counter-narrative that pierces or penetrates, right? You saw that writ large with the Ukrainian war, right? There's no counter-narrative that penetrates. No one even talks to anybody with a counter-narrative, right? Like, even like your Noam Chomsky's or Chris Hedges don't get any traction. Nobody talks to anybody, right? Like, it's all about just maintaining this banal one-note message. But it all comes down to their submission to authority complex as usual. In this case, submission to the market and captains of industry, yeah. Right? And it's just like the worship of these guys. Like, it's just worship. And it's so childish. Like, believing in Santa Claus, basically. Eddie Murphy made a great movie called A Distinguished Gentleman. It was all about how name recognition gets you elected, how they screw the poor, yeah. No, there were some great movies in the 80s that were like this. Was it Trading Places? Was another really good one with Dan Aykroyd. Maybe now that the rich have most of it, the only way to ensure the rest can't get any more is to kick the ladder from under them. I mean, pretty sad when John Oliver is the only mainstream media outlet even attempting to expose the corruption of the system. I mean, John Oliver, all of those guys, like Stephen Colbert, John Oliver, like that whole crew, right? Their shtick has obviously become that they are allowed and permitted to critique the internal domestic issues of the system so long as they do not, under any circumstances, deviate from the imperialist message, right? As long as Maduro is a dictator, as long as you never actually talk about Libya, right? As long as you don't actually talk about how the empire operates outside of the domestic borders, then they're free to discuss whatever they would like. Like, because the imperialists understand that the heart of the system is theft from other nations, right? Like, if you go and steal other nations, like this is why the dupes who actually think the system is working, like your Jordan Peterson types, somebody mentioned him, like, oh yeah, everything's great. Yeah, it's great for us. Like, it's not great for our victims. like that we obviously have, that you can clearly see, like very, very straightforwardly. Like, John, when Powell says workers need to be disciplined by the labor market, he's saying that the unemployment in the coming recession will end any uppity ideas workers have for wage increases. Yeah, I mean, there's that too, right? Like, the recession, I don't know why we're saying the coming recession. Like, we're in a recession. Like, it's very clear. And like, I don't really, like, why are we calling it a recession and not a depression? Like, seems to me that we say recession if it's happening to someone else, but if it's happening to me, then it's a depression. It's like like the and there's absolutely no sign that there's going to be any kind of recovery. Like, I don't know what the fuck people are looking at, thinking like, oh, we're gonna raise the interest rate 0.5% and that's gonna do it. Like, what the fuck are you even talking about? Banks have to borrow other people's money and lend it to others in order to keep the economy functioning because no one is spending it, and as a result, there's no economy. Yeah. Like, I don't really understand what people are talking about. And, like, so what's going to happen is that the places that remain open, right, are the places that are able to raise their prices so much to account for the psychopath class raising their prices, and have a clientele who are rich enough to be able to do it. Like, I think about the cafe that I work at. Like, the one thing that I think I've got going for me right now in terms of my financial security is that I work at a cafe that basically the clientele is all rich people. And so we just recently raised our prices because of all of this, right, and other various reasons. And there hasn't really been much by way of complaint, right? People just pay it because they have more money than sense. And I'm actually saying to the bosses, like, you guys should just keep raising the prices. Like, these people are going to pay for it. Like, they're too stupid to realize that they shouldn't, you know? But this is another, like, banks have to borrow other people's money, lend it to others. Like, the whole thing is a circle, right? And like, raising the interest rates means that, like, that's a way to break the circle. Lowering wages, that's a way to break the circle, right? And if you break the circle, then it's over. The level of the honking was physically assaulting. Yeah, that is fair, Adam. I mean, they literally passed a piece of legislation in order to stop it, right? Talking about maid and walking around the graveyard is pretty provocative. Not saying you should do it for views and subscribers, but it is pretty poignant. I didn't even think about it that way, honestly. I don't think about those videos that way. Like, I take your point, CR Strifey, but like, I'm just always speaking from my heart, and that was the issue that was troubling me. That was the thing that was on my that was bothering my consciousness. And I have found for myself that the only way that I can get those things out is by expunging it. And I have tried to do other formats to do a similar thing, but it's not as effective for me. It doesn't work the same way. And like, I think the graveyard. I think the graveyard is where we should be having these conversations, right? Like, we as a people need to be grounded again. Like, we need to find the ground again. Like, we're living in these false abstractions, right? Like, we're literally chasing phantoms and ghosts and imagined universes that don't matter at all. Like, and these people that are stuck in like the Marvel verse. Or give a shit about this new Obi-Wan thing as if it matters at all, right? Like, the constant, like, I respect the pursuit of escapism, like, I'm fine with it, but our entire world has become escapism, right? That now we are starting to see the escapism manifest in our politics, that like, literally people are just living in fantasy worlds where they don't actually genuinely understand or care to understand how any of these systems even work, if they even acknowledge there are systems in the first place, right? Like, what is the belief that everyone just needs to bootstrap themselves and stand up straight and clean their room and all this? What is that but a complete and total fantasy, right? Like, it's a fantasy. It's not how anything works. And so when I walk around the graveyard, I feel like it's fairly grounding, because it helps to remind people that, like, we're only here temporarily. Like, we're just temporal refugees more than anything. And how dare we even contemplate the idea that for the temporary moment that we're here, that this place be nice? Like, oh shit. What a scandalous concept that for the brief, fleeting glimmer of a batting of an eyelash that we're actually conscious and aware in this space, well, we should make sure that it's nice. Oh shit, what a fucking commie. Holy shit, commie, go back to Russia. Like, yeah, they're not class conscious, yeah, of the trucker convoy, for sure. Like, they just see, but that's just the truth, right? They just see themselves as, like, good old boys, like, hardworking stiffs. That's it. And that's as far as it goes. Start claiming Trudeau is a communist, fascist, Biden is a Marxist, and Trump won the election. You'll get BBC types show up here in drove, they'll pay you. Yeah, unfortunately, it's not real. And I'm trying really hard to make this a place that's real, right? That's true. That's why I'll always be on the lower side of things, and I know that's true, is because people don't want to hear the truth, right? We're in a post-truth moment, and so people who are trying to maintain the truth don't do very well, and I know that's the truth. So, and I'm fine with it. Like I said just a few minutes ago, like, we're not here that long, right? Like, I'm not. I look at the people who are like, I gotta go buy a house. I'm like, oh man, when you turn 80, man, you're gonna clean that house out. It's gonna be a real problem. Nah. Like, people don't like to think of the temporary nature of our existence. And my feeling is, like, I'm not interested in lying to the next generation, and I'm not interested in, and I'm interested in building a world that's better for them. I don't know why that became passé. Right? It wasn't that long ago that people were like, we want to make a better world for our children. Like, now we don't give a fuck about our children at all. Like, when did that happen? When did that become passé? John, did you watch the news video of white people ripping down posters of a murdered Indigenous woman because they made their polls ugly? Yeah, that's exactly what white people do. John needs to say cultural Marxism in Jordan Peterson voice. But the problem with today's cultural Marxism... Cultural Marxism. It has nothing to do. It's not like the Nazi propaganda where we said cultural Bolshevism. It's different somehow. Cultural Marxism. If only Trudeau was a communist. Yeah, no shit, eh? That's my thing. Like, I wish. Trudeau's not anything. Like, that's the thing. Like, he's just a loser. Like, he's a prince. Like, if I was to peg Trudeau with anything, I'd just be like, oh, he's just a prince. That's it. Like, he views himself as a prince. The society views him as a prince. Like, nobody, like, he's not really much of anything, right? Like, he just is daddy's boy. That's all. I did try to discuss things with these freedom fighters. Frankly, 90% of them are too far gone to be reached. I concluded we'll be seeing these people in the streets when the time comes. Yeah. No, that's right. Like, people are angry. Like, one of the things that we're trying to do here, and I think it's important that we do, and I think it's important that it's done, is that we're trying to actually create a narrative that's based on evidence. And to do that, it means that you actually have to be able to pierce through your emotional self. You've got to be able to respect, like, not dismiss. I'm not saying take your emotional self and be rid of it. Quite the opposite, right? But you have to be able to deal with the reality that we are emotionally driven creatures first and foremost. And to accept that and then get through it, to actually accept that there is evidence and facts and reason, right? And that's what we're trying to do here. But the people who are the reason why, like, fascism and Nazism and these sorts of things really flourish during periods of crisis is because it's as knee-jerk and emotional as it gets, right? It's just the urge to destroy, right? Which is just highly emotionally driven, right? And of course they're not thinking rationally, because if they were thinking rationally, they'd realize it's a bad idea. And it is a bad idea. But they're just living in this highly emotional state, and it's going to get worse because things are going to get more desperate, right? So the society is going to get more violent. The society is going to get more aggressive. And I'm not going to be too surprised, guys. Like, so far the power structure has managed to keep public displays of punishment at a minimum, or at least behind closed doors, right? Or secretive, right? Like, lynchings happen, but they're not openly done, right? They're not paraded in front of us, right? But that's for sure going to start happening. Like, for sure that's going to start happening. Like, this society is so disgraceful that they're not going to be able to help themselves eventually, right? Like, take one of those, like, robot dogs and tie people to it. Have it parade up and down the streets, right? Like we're fucking in the Roman Empire again. Like, it's coming. If anyone is mad at this take, you're not communist. Well nuanced, John. Thank you, sir. I know few people who were in that convoy and they're voting Doug Ford, still saying F Trudeau. Yeah, I tell them, you do know Doug Ford went on TV and begged Trudeau to remove them, yeah? No, like I said, you know, I think a lot of the people that are voting for Doug Ford they're living in an emotional space exclusively. Like, we're not thinking these things through with any kind of rationality whatsoever, like at all. Like, for fuck's sake, guys, like, this has got to be the biggest tip you've ever seen that we're incapable of thinking things through rationally. The best way to build an economy is to destroy the economy. Like, yeah, the farmers in India was pretty amazing. Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. Look at these. Oh, we got some numbers coming up. Let me get through this and then we'll... Vince, good to see you, bud. National Post endorsed Ford, but the CEO, Conrad Black, corporate criminal, endorsed New Blue. And NP still wants that Ford money. Yeah, Torstar, Post Media, Thompson. Yeah, that's right. The other day, I pissed off my libertarian friend when I said there is zero evidence that supports the libertarian worldview. Maury Rothbard was an outright liar in his book. Yeah, that's fine. You piss those people off. I agree with others, but John Oliver, from what I've seen, actually takes some action. Ford and Trudeau are aligned. I disagree. He lies by omission. There's barely any quotes to support his claims. He equates socialism with the state, doesn't use any socialist quotes. Yeah. Speaking of trading places, it was produced by the late Aaron Russo, whose documentary American from Freedom Fascism still gets a high recommendation from me. Was that produced by Aaron Russo? How about that? Small businesses actually wanted to open during the convoy in Ottawa, but police forced them to stay closed. They would fine them if they opened. Yet they blamed the convoy. Yeah. I hope so, Vince. From my experience, a lot of those disenfranchised cons that went to PPC have seemed to have forgotten, went back to CPC. We'll see about that. Yeah, Polyev's pretty effective. My aunt worked in a store. She wanted to work. All right. I'm seeing numbers. You guys want it. Give the people what they want. Give the people what they want. And the people want David Lynch. Okay, what do we got? I saw some numbers up here, did I?
Here we go for today's number. It's May 31, 2022.
Mocked, you and me, ride or die on a
10
7.
balls.
Got an 8, got a 9.
Each ball has a number.
Here we go.
Numbers 1 through 10. Swirl
Got
the
3
number.
here from Generation Why Me. Let's go. Let's go. 6. Here we go. 7.
Pick a number.
7. 7. 7. 7. 7.
Today's number is 5.
Anybody hit the 5? Anybody hit the 5? Eric. CR Strifey. We'll give it to you, CR Strifey. You came in 0 hour. Alright. And as I've been trying to do, I'm so excited because on Friday, I'm actually going to go to an open mic night. There's finally an open mic night. I'm blown away that there's an open mic night happening on a Friday. Pre-pandemic, that would never happen. There was no such thing as a open mic night on Friday, right? Do I want to do that one, or do I want to do... Which one? Which one do I want to do? Sure. Let's do this one. This is kind of a downer, but you know what? The energy of David Lynch says so I'm going to do it. B string. Good enough. Pretending we'll go back to before. Psychopath nation shatter hard upon the floor. Dumb politicians trick us all with stupid grins. They'll run for cover while we pay for their sins. I'm sad. We burn the whole world down. I'm sad. Everybody let us down. Just keep on working, pay no attention to the smoke. Just keep on working, nobody cares if you're still broke. Just keep on working, come on, what is wrong with you? Just keep on working, try not to think about the truth. I'm sad, everybody let us down. I'm sad. We burn the whole world down. God has no mercy for those who kill themselves. Laughs at us loudly as we build a perfect hell. Tear down the gardens replaced with empty stone. Run to your bunkers built with our blood and bones. I'm sad. Everybody let us down. There's no forgiveness for us at all. There's no forgiveness for us at all. Yeah, I guess if you're in Toronto, and you want to come, it's Friday, 8 p.m., Fox at the Fiddle, 535 Danforth. It's too long, Eric, and it's not really an article. It's just like a breakdown of stuff. Like, I'll happily share it, but it's not really an article. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like a, where the heck was it? Where the heck? Where the heck? Good opportunity to say like, share, subscribe, guys. Hit the bells, hit the whistles. Tell people I exist. Give me some money. For God's sakes, give me some money. Right? If you give money to the Discord, yeah, I don't open with that one. Yeah, no, not an opener. Not an opener. I don't think I would even put that one in a set, honestly, Watson. The only reason I played it was because it was the one that got randomly generated, and I've promised myself that I'll do it. But I'm sad is not. I don't think it's going to make the. It's going to make the cut ultimately. And honestly, like, I kind of just like it's. I have another song that's kind of like it, but it's more poetic. I'm sad is too. It's too on the nose. That's the real problem. That's the real problem with it. It's just too on the nose. Like, I shouldn't say that. It's not that it's too on the nose. It's that because I like it when it's on the nose. Like, we got to get these dummies on the nose, right? Like, what's the problem I have with it? I don't know. You know, it's not poetic enough. I think that's what it is. It's just not poetic enough. All right, I want to play this one. This is the one I want to play. These times they are uncertain, of that there is no doubt, and nobody can tell me quite what it's all about. The heartbreak and the loneliness, the chaos and the fear will make even the strongest cry. I wish my ma was here. A young man on a battlefield fights for a rich man's gold. The bullet cracks into his spine. He knows he won't grow old. And as the tears come streaming down, at once his mind goes clear. The war was fought for nothing, he cries. I wish my ma was here. A lively story well in hand, a joke to soothe your soul. And when it came to arguing, she'd forgive and let it go. And when I cried, she held me, told me it's okay, my dear. And as we face these darkened days, I wish my ma was here. And as we march into the streets, as all the righteous do, we'll raise our voices to the skies. They cannot stop the truth. And as we tear their structures down, we'll raise a victory cheer. We made the world a better place, and I wish my ma was here. Yeah, we made the world a better place, and I wish my ma was here. I do like that one too. Thank you, Kaya. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. And you know what? I want to sing one more. I know. I know. You know what it was? I don't like I'm sad because it's selfish. That's what it is. Yeah, that's what it is. I don't like I'm sad because it's selfish. That's what it is. Something like that song I just played. I wish my ma was here. I feel like we're in it together. Whereas I'm sad, you're just putting up with me. That's what it is. Like, I'm sad. Well, it's in the title, for God's sake. It's I'm sad. right? Like, you got to put up with me now. Whereas a lot of my other songs, we're in it together. Like this one. I think this is a good one that illustrates this. Capo on 3? Let's put it on 3. Got asked a question by my niece who's 5 years old. What's the world gonna be like when I'm grown? I looked up to the crimson smoke-filled sky. I thought, what's the harm in telling one more lie? I said, everybody's safe, no one's living in the streets. You never need to worry if you're gonna get to Eden. Antarctica is covered in ice, and everybody's happy, and wouldn't that be nice? The burning sun won't leave a paper trail. Why work so hard if it's too big to fail? And what's the point of feeding this machine if it won't make the world in our dreams where everybody's safe, no one's living in the streets? You never need to worry if you're gonna get to Eden. Antarctica is covered in ice, and everybody's happy, and wouldn't that be nice? And I know one day my maker I will meet, when death's sweet kiss comes and sweeps me off my feet. I hope by then we've learned a little more. I'd like this place to be better than before, so everybody's safe, no one's living in the streets. You never need to worry if you're gonna get to Eden. Antarctica is covered in ice. Everybody's safe, no one's living in the streets. You never need to worry if you're gonna get to Eden. Antarctica is covered in ice. Antarctica is covered in I don't know if I do this one as an opener. I think my opener is 2020. That's what I think. Do you think Psychopath Nation could use some serious guitar? For sure. Like, for sure, that song. That song could absolutely use some very real guitar. This one, Antarctica, I like this song a lot. I like that song a lot, but I still think 2020 is the opener. Yeah, thank you, CR Strifey. I just think that what's good about 2020 is that it introduces me, I think, in the cleanest way possible and presents my worldview and ethos in a very straightforward manner that I think anybody can get. And also, I think most people really dig the song. I think that, like, I've heard it described as a banger. This song slaps, especially as people come back from pandemic. Yeah, thank you, CR. I think that's right. I think it's a timely song. I think it's a good song. And I think it grabs people. It's immediately relevant. Yeah, it really grabs people. Whereas Antarctica, I like as, like, how it's more the vision, right? Like, 2020 puts you where you are, whereas Antarctica shows you where to go. And I don't think you can know where to go until you know where you are. And that's why I would do 2020 and then Antarctica, right? Maybe like 2020 and like Psychopath Nation and then Antarctica, right? Like, and the more I think about it, the more I really think that, like, Antarctica is actually more one that I want to leave on, right? Because I do think that we can get through this, right? That we can get through this. That even now, I still believe that we can get through this, right? Because I think the solution is actually much easier than we like to admit. That the earth created us. The earth created us. Like, we didn't create this place. We didn't make it. We didn't do any of that. We didn't put any of the work in. We didn't earn it. We didn't earn it. The place was created as a garden for us to be in. We were born into this garden, this wondrous, mysterious garden that we don't understand why it's here, nor do we understand why we are here. We're just here. And this place is more than capable of healing itself. Thank you very much. It doesn't need any assistance from us. And it seems like any assistance we try to give is just creating a bigger problem. And the earth is letting us know. It's letting us know that it's a big problem. And honestly, if we want to be here to actually witness the miracle of the earth healing itself, which, thank you very much, it's more than capable of doing, then what we have to do is stop. I don't know how many songs I get, Watson. I'm going to bank on 2. Because that's traditional. 2 is usually what you get. And 2 makes sense. 2 makes sense. Because, like, let's be frank about what happens at an open mic night. Most people are bad, right? Like, I'm not trying to be mean. I'm not trying to be an asshole about it or arrogant. But most people are bad at an open mic night. And the people who are not bad, right, have, like, a good song. And then, so what smart people do when they go to an open mic night is they open with the song that they know everyone likes. You open with your good stuff as a way to ingratiate yourself. And then you play the second song, and the first song is the song you always play. And then the second song is the song that you rotate to experiment with, right? And I feel like that's how I approach it, because I feel like I feel like you have to ingratiate yourself to the audience before you try something risky or try something untested. And then 2 songs so everybody gets a chance, everybody gets rotated around, and also you don't want people to get too comfortable in the seat. You don't want people to get too comfortable in the seat. So there's a cycling that happens, and I have been at some open mic nights where it hasn't been well populated and like it's late enough, and so people are like, "Hey, do you want to play another one?" Right? That does happen, but it's sort of like karaoke, but you have to be able to play an instrument. Yeah. I mean, and you're playing your own stuff usually, or if you are playing a cover, it's your own cover, right? Like it's. Karaoke's a different thing, though, man. Karaoke's like nobody expects people to be good at karaoke. Like that's really the truth. That's not why you're doing karaoke, right? Most people in karaoke bars suck. Yeah, because karaoke sucks. Like the whole experience of karaoke sucks. It's not a. I don't really like karaoke that much, and it's like. Starts at 8. I don't know when I'll get up. I want to sign up to get in early, of course, because then most people show me, right? And my God, the number of times you have to hear Bohemian Rhapsody exactly. Kaya, if it's too much of a problem, don't worry about it. It's literally my first outing, okay? Like I don't know what to expect. I don't want to set people up. Like I don't want to set an expectation and not meet that expectation, okay? And really, like I'm gonna do 2 songs. You're gonna see a lot of different people, right? So. I don't want to, it's not like, it's not my show, right? All right. And I look forward to seeing you. It'll be the first time I've seen you since you changed your name. Get hype. Get hype. Yeah, the number of times that's just it, right? Like, and people always pick kind of the same songs, right? Because they got to pick something that they feel comfortable with. So you never hear anything new. You never hear anything unique. You always see people who like, and the whole point of karaoke is to make a fool of yourself, because for most people, singing is actually it makes you very vulnerable, right? Like the act of singing in this society, at this place in time, is a very vulnerable feeling. Because you're taking your emotional self and you're displaying it, right? Like that's the fundamental basis of singing, right? Is that the core of singing is emotional truth. And the people who are good, like we have all seen people who are technically good at singing, right? Who are technically good at singing, but you don't really attach to them. And it's because the core of music is not the technical aspect of it. The core of music is the emotional truth, right? Which is why, like, you get a lot of singing and a lot of artists who aren't actually that good at singing, but who are very popular. And it's because they've grabbed onto something that's emotionally true. And that's what karaoke is really doing, right? You don't sing karaoke to display your technical excellence. You sing karaoke because it gives you the opportunity, the freedom, the permission to just display an emotional truth that you can't get elsewhere. And that's why people are drawn to karaoke, because it gives them the opportunity to make a fool of themselves. But it really is just like a release of the pressure valve of the emotional buildup that exists within people. And they don't know what else to do. I can do a pretty good Gord Downey doing now at high do, but I need. Oh, Watson immediately deletes it. Too late. I read halfway through. Now I know the truth. I know the truth about you, Watson. Getting drunk on Caesar, singing "Poor Unfortunate Souls." Good pick. Good pick, dude. That's a good pick. See, that's a great thing to do at karaoke. Is just find like that Disney song where you can just be extra, right? And "Poor Unfortunate Souls" is it. Poor unfortunate souls. Absolutely. Absolutely, dude. Like, just like absolutely pour everything you've got into it. Because no one cares if you're bad, right? And if you're good, it's like a little treat. And no one's going to walk away from it being like, wow, I got to look into that guy, right, in karaoke. That's not what it's for or what it's about. That, like, if people who went to karaoke and were good at it actually wanted to be singers, that's what they would be pursuing, right? They'd be going to open mic nights. Like, I saw one woman at an open mic night. She was hilarious, dude. She was hilarious. She would go up on stage and she had a recorder, right? The old school traditional, like, tape recorder, right? That she would play into a mic, and that would be the song. And she was like her shoulders were up like this. She had her mic like this, and she'd be like this, and she would be like tapping her side. Like, I don't know if you guys can see, but she'd be like tapping her side like this to get the rhythm. And she looked like this and all this. And then she would sing like the grittiest, most like bluesy voice came out of this like woman like this playing from a tape recorder, that just like if you closed your eyes and you didn't look at her, you would be like, holy shit, like it's a huge like powerhouse of a voice. I'm just like, this lady needs to do some yoga. That's really what it is. Like, that, people like that just got to do some yoga. Just like work the shoulders out, sweetie. Like, work the shoulders out. You gotta, if you're gonna go up on stage. We have done tests on people, like musicians and artists, actors, who come off stage, and we've tested their adrenaline levels after they go on stage, and the adrenaline levels that artists experience after going on stage and performing, and this is true of comedians as well, it's the similar levels of people who get into car accidents, right? So if you're in a car accident, you know, we test your adrenaline levels, it's like way up here. Okay, well, if you go and perform in front of people, same story. So it's doing something to you. It's doing something to you, man. And people are like, I haven't been on stage in front of people since the beginning of the pandemic, and even a little before that even. So it's just like, it's been probably 3 years for me, and I've never performed these songs in front of people except you guys, right? And while I appreciate the feedback that you give me and the love that I receive from the songs that I play, it's not the same. Like, it's not the same, right? So I'm actually quite hyped for it. I'm really looking forward to it. So hopefully it's a good experience. Because, as we all know, right, OECD predicts Canada will be the worst performing advanced economy over the next decade and the 3 decades after that. Yay! This is an old article, right? It comes from December 14th, but one that I wanted to bring back around just to remind everybody, right? When you stop actually listening to Canadian sources, right? When you actually look at people whose job it is to actually be like the third party, right? To look at your country and be like, hey, how's this country doing? What do we predict for this country? Oh, it's going to be the worst performing advanced economy. Wah, 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 wah. Oh, wah, 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 wah. That's not a bad idea, actually, Eric. Just record myself with my phone. It's not going to be a great recording, but you're right. And there are other things that I should do. Like, I got to get recordings, just each individual song recorded and up on YouTube. Create like a little playlist for myself and for others. Music, man, music. I do think that we've gone through this interesting period of time in music where, I was just talking about this the other day, just to myself. Sometimes I walk around the apartment and talk to myself. And what I was saying was, we've gone through a real period of time where the core of music hasn't been, let's tell an emotional truth. It's been, look at what we can do. Which is understandable because we had this huge series of technological breakthroughs in music, right? Like the electric keyboard and electronica and all that, which happened through the late 70s into the 80s and 90s. The birth of rap as a movement, where you ended up with like things like dubstep and all of this, and lots of spin-offs of the electronic movement, and people started to get access to mixing boards. Mixing boards became easy to have, right? It wasn't like this big multi-$1,000 board that you needed to know how to do. Like, you literally can download a free program onto any computer, and then you have a mixing board that you can mix stuff and do all kinds of stuff with. The voice changing shit, the auto-tuning, that's the word I was looking for. Auto-tuning, right? Like, auto-tuning was a huge change in the way that people delivered music and how music was done. And we had a whole group of artists that came out, and their whole shtick was that they were using auto-tuning, and they weren't hiding it, right? Because at first there was this sort of element of like, we can use it, but we need to be subtle, and we need to make sure people can't tell. And there was a whole period of time where people were like, they're auto-tuning, I can tell, right? And then a bunch of artists came out and were just like, yeah, I'm auto-tuning. I'm obviously auto-tuning. Like, that's the whole point, right? And then to compete with this, but all of it is in this bubble of look at what I can do, right? Look at what I can do. Look at what I can do. Look at this. Look at that. Look at this. Look at this. Listen to this. Isn't this interesting? And none of it was coming from a place of like emotional truth, right? There was no emotional core. There was no emotional truth. Most of the songs still ended up being like, my hoes and my bitches, or like, I'm gonna get back at my boyfriend, or you're a piece of shit, right? Like, most of it really was like still, and not to say that kind of music is bad or incorrect, and we shouldn't have those types of songs, but most of it really does sort of fall in this kind of very much like one-to-one relations kind of thing. I think about a song like Toxic, for example, Britney Spears' Toxic, right? Great song, I love it, it's on my playlist for sure. But really, it's just like a girl telling a dude that he sucks, right? Have a good one, Kaya. See you later. See you later. And so to compete with this, vocalists, and like really good vocalists, get into this mindset of look at what I can do, right? Look, I can hit this big high note, right? Look, I can be fluid, right? And this is why you end up with a lot of songs and singers who, instead of just hitting and holding a note, right? The way that like Whitney Houston used to, right? Like Whitney Houston would come out on stage and it's like, and that was like, people would cheer for that. She'd hit like the one note, right? And, I think I know the one you're talking about too, Generation. Yeah. I love it when people do creepy versions of songs. But so instead of hitting the one note and holding the one note and being like, and now it's like, and right? Like, people go up and down and all over the place. Like, when people sing like the American national anthem, and the home. It's not about the emotional truth of the song. It's not about presenting something that is existing within the heart of music, which is emotional truth. It's just about look at what I can do. And I think people are ready. I think especially the pandemic really brought people back down to the ground in serious ways. Like, you remember when all those artists, all those actors rather, did like a version of Imagine, right? All of the actors came out and did that version of Imagine, and the populace's response to it was, get the fuck out of here. Shut the fuck up. Which I was just like, finally, we're telling these guys to shut the fuck up. Finally. Like, thank you, Jesus. Because, like, nobody wanted to hear that shit. Nobody was like, oh, good, like, Wonder Woman is singing Imagine to me. That's really soothing me right now. Like, no. Because it was so fake. It was so fake, and there was no emotional truth behind it whatsoever. It was just like, please let us continue being relevant in your lives, and nobody gave a shit whatsoever. And so I think people are hungry for emotional truth, and I think that's what I'm delivering. I think that's what my music does, is that it hits people in an emotional truth. Like, I think as a singer and as a guitarist, I'm competent, right? Like, I think, like, vocally, I'm probably, like, ever so slightly above average, but just slightly. Like, I don't think I'm, like, the greatest singer ever. I think I've got a pretty competent grasp on my vocal range and what I can do with my voice. but I think the emotional truth and the emotional resonance of a lot of my songs is really what's going to carry the day. Like, you think about somebody like Alanis Morissette. Like, Alanis Morissette wasn't the greatest singer, right? But there was an emotional resonance. There was an emotional truth to what she was doing. I'm below average, but I never sing. Or like you think about like Leonard Cohen. Leonard Cohen was a terrible vocalist, right? Like his singing, I'm gonna be straight. Leonard Cohen sucked as a vocalist. He sucked. But everybody loved him. Everybody loved him because he hit an emotional truth. Like Hallelujah. Hallelujah. I was just like, absolutely, there was like a deep emotional resonance that carried through the populace, and still does. Popular culture is largely irredeemable anyway. Marketing gives people a false view of reality. I mean, for God's sakes, like the absolute dreck that people are willing to put themselves through. Like, I just can't be convinced to watch any of these Marvel movies anymore. Yeah, Lou Reed is a great example of this as well, yeah. Bob Dylan, another really good example, right? There are lots of great examples of this where, like, they're not good singers, and you know they're not good singers. You're listening to them, and you're like, they're not the greatest singer, but that's not what's happening. That they're coming in on a wavelength that hits you in an emotionally true place, and that's what's valuable. It's not the quality of the technicality of their singing. Or their performance. It's something else. And that's a very ephemeral sort of a thing, right? Like people who are not artists, like especially your hard-nosed like libertarian types, like that who outright mock the arts, they certainly don't understand what artists are doing, which is that what artists are doing is they're seizing a hold of the zeitgeist, right? The collective consciousness, the energy that everybody is feeling, but lacks the skill set to articulate. And they're taking that zeitgeist energy and they're putting it onto the page and then sending it back to the audience, right? So the artist isn't actually producing the music, he's just funneling it, right? That the music is in there, the music is in the audience and is in the populace. Right, that the people themselves are generating the music, that it exists there. The artist is just pulling it out and sending it back to the people and having them hear what they already know to be true. That's what artistry actually is, right? And that's why I consider myself an artist, because I don't actually view what I do as like a creation of the self. Like, none of this comes out of myself. It's not how I view it. That I am just the filter, or the not the filter even, but the voice. I'm just the voice of it, right? That the energy comes through, and that's it. And that's how I view it, and that's how I've always viewed it. And I don't know. Hopefully, I'll be even modestly successful. It'd be cool if I became like a local legend. That'd be nice, right? Local legend, I can take it. Local legend, John Sanderson. All right, cool. I'd be down. But these are just dreams, right? These are just dreams. Here's a question. Would it be possible that the Nazi would have never came to power if Hitler was able to go to art school instead of him being denied? I've thought about that, dude. Like, you take a look at Hitler's paintings. Hitler was a competent artist. Macht says no, and Macht would know more than I would, for sure. For sure. Because I think you're probably right, Macht, that Nazism sort of supersedes someone like Hitler, you know? That Hitler was just, in a very similar sort of sense, that Hitler was just the voice, right? He was just the guy who the zeitgeist came through. But the zeitgeist was still there, right? And the zeitgeist will be heard, right? Yeah. Watson's got it too. Fascism isn't about Adolf Hitler. Yeah. The material conditions had already been created. Germany lost all its colonies. It was in debt. Great Depression. There was a strong collectivist movement. Yeah. And you have this desire in the capitalist class to protect itself from this strong collectivist movement. And so if it hadn't reached out to someone like Adolf Hitler, it would have reached out to someone else, right? That fascism is born of these material conditions. It's not about a character, right? That we focus on the characters because they're interesting. Like a character like Adolf Hitler is interesting, without a doubt. But fascism comes to power without him. But it does also, like, to kind of give your point a little bit more credence, Eric, that perhaps a society that had opened itself up in such a way, right, so that people would be more permitted and the society would be more inclusive, would be one in which the tensions that built fascism would be diffused, right? That's possible. Yeah. If it wasn't Hitler and the Nazis, it would have been some other group of people like the DNVP under Alfred Hugenberg, backed by Krupp, Ford. Yeah. AEG/GM. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and Adam, you're right. Hitler was criticized for this, for being only technical. He wasn't very creative, right? It was basically landscapes, buildings, that kind of thing. He wasn't really pushing the envelope or any of that kind of thing. But at the same time, like I look at this and I'm like, that's pretty decent for a dude who's like uneducated, right? Like he wasn't permitted to go to art school. Like I think he's done fairly decently here, and perhaps if he had have gone to art school, it could have fostered a more creative part of him. But that's just woulda, coulda, shoulda, right? Like, who knows? Yeah. Fascism isn't about the terribleness of Hitler, Mussolini, Franco. It's about the ruling class, blunt force in the face-off revolt from below. Yeah. The Nazis during that time period were not able to go anywhere because Hitler was a charismatic character that was able to rally people together. Again, though, Eric, I mean, like, Hitler's not unique in this regard, right? Like, Hitler's just the guy that happened to be the heart of the zeitgeist. He just became the face of the zeitgeist. And if it wasn't if it wouldn't be him, there would be someone else. Like, this is the thing that makes people uncomfortable about talking about fascism and Nazism and all of this, is that the energy and the movement supersedes the individuals, right? This is why the individualism that I see, the individualist movement that exists in today's society, I consider to be quite dangerous. Because if you're a bunch of dumb rubes walking around saying, the only thing that matters is the individual, and individualizing your individualism, well, then you literally are incapable of understanding the basic premise of a zeitgeist, right? And you can be caught up in a zeitgeist and be completely unaware of it. As many of these guys are, if you ask me. Like, many of these guys don't, like, they're literally walking around being like, I'm an individual and I'm in charge of my life and I've got control, and individuals will individualize their individualism, grind set, all this, and they're just caught up in a zeitgeist that is much more powerful than they are. By a lot. By a lot. Right? And the best you can ever do in terms of interpreting the zeitgeist is acknowledging that what the energy of the zeitgeist is, right? And once you acknowledge the zeitgeist, then you can actually start to, I don't want to say use it, but you can definitely start to operate in it in a way that can actually alter the zeitgeist, right? And what I'm saying here is completely understandable, right? I feel like I worry sometimes when I talk about the zeitgeist and this kind of thing, that people think I'm getting into like a hoobu-jooby sort of like hyper spiritual sort of place, and it's like absolutely not. Like you can see the zeitgeist in action. Watch any comedy show. And you understand instantly and immediately what I'm talking about, right? That there is such a thing as a collective group of people seizing a singular energy and directing that singular energy towards an individual who then sends that energy back at them. It's called a comedy show, right? It's the reason why comedy is popular, because comedians are literally making the zeitgeist laugh. That's it, right? But if you deny the existence of such a thing, or if you think that such a thing should not be understood or studied, and if you're just this rugged individualist type, then you'll be manipulated by it. You'll be caught up in it. You'll become the zeitgeist's worst actors, because you believe that what you are doing is coming from a place of your deep individualism, when really it's the zeitgeist operating within you, right? Like, and I don't, like, I understand why, because, like, the problem with the individualism side isn't the individualism side, it's the fundamentalism of it. That, yeah, of course there's individuals. Like, of course we're individuals individualizing our individualism. Like, yeah, of course that exists. But that's just one variable, right? And, like, to hyper-focus on the individual in a fundamentalist way is where the problem actually comes from, right? Like someone like Peterson. Like, again, I bring up Peterson. Like, he's a fundamentalist individualist, right? Which means that he's incomprehensible and stupid, right? And he doesn't understand, like, he genuinely thinks that a single individual can be more powerful than the entire society. And it's just dumb. It's just a dumb thing to think. There's a handful of dudes who control everything with their backs. When Hitler died, the Nazi movement in Germany. I like that you did that in quotes, Eric. When Mussolini died, the fascist movement died with him. Yeah, but Eric, like, it wasn't like they went in and just assassinated these guys, right? It's not like they went in and Hitler got picked off. Like, when Hitler died, it was like troops storming a bunker, and like the whole of the Nazi party was completely arrested. Like, same story with Mussolini. Like, when Mussolini's captured, like, everybody in that party gets captured, right? Like, it's not like Hitler had a heart attack, right? It's not like Hitler was doing his salutes and being like, and then died, and then the whole movement collapsed, right? Like, the movement collapsed because we killed it. Because the Soviets and the Americans, at the end, came in and killed it. On purpose. Yeah, the systems are the thing to be talking about for sure. Like, and it's astounding to me that we actually have to defend the idea that there are systems. That's what's so fucking astounding to me. That we're sitting here being like, hey, there's systems that are in place that we operate under. Think about the whole Trump movement. As long as Trump was around, people were supporting him and he was the greatest president, but the entire movement that he was able to do died. Nah. Watson's right. Trump's movement it's taken over the Republican Party. Like Trump's going to be the president of the United States again, dude. Like, that movement has not collapsed. It is still going quite strong. And the fealty that people are paying to Trump still exists. Timotry, where is me butter knife? Timotry, I have to butter my dog. What is happening over there, Mocked? Every so often Mocked says something that I'm like, this sounds like it would be hilarious or profound, but I have no idea what you're talking about. Like, I feel like this has got to be a reference to the this has got to be a reference to something that I'm just missing. 41 attempts on Hitler's life if you don't count the Hitler-Ludendorff putsch. Well, guys, 41 attempts. That means that there's been 41 time travelers have gone back in time and attempted to assassinate Hitler. It's a lot of tries. It's a lot of tries. Uh, I don't know how to. I don't know how to spin out of Hitler. You know, how do I continue talking about anything else? We're literally talking about, like, and honestly, like, I feel like all of these articles. First of all, I enjoy talking to you guys. You guys are what makes the show more than anything. I love it. Like, plastic recycling doesn't work and will never work. Like, yeah, like, no shit. Like, if the plastic industry is following the tobacco industry's playbook, it may never admit to the failure of plastics recycling. You know what? I'm going to read this one just because it's short. But I've known forever, like, plastic recycling is pointless. It takes more energy to do than you get back. Americans support recycling. We do too. But although some materials can be effectively recycled and safely made from recycled content, plastics cannot. Plastic recycling does not work and will never work. The United States in 2021 had a dismal recycling rate of about 5% for post-consumer plastic waste, down from a high of 9.5% in 2014, when the U.S. exported millions of tons of plastic waste to China and counted it as recycled, even though much of it wasn't. Like, we gotta just stop with this shit. Like, why are we making plastic bottles? Like, what the fuck is this? Plastic bottles? Like, what were glass bottles such a problem? Like, it's just because some goddamn capitalists were like, oh, if we use plastic bottles, we can save 0.3% of a penny per bottle, which means that we get an extra $2 million a year if we use plastic bottles. Like, fucking, what was wrong with glass, man? Like, what the fuck was wrong with glass? I often wonder where the new Trump story will take us. I know, right? Well, because Trump is very much, like, the appeal of Trump is that he is a wild card. That's really the bottom line on Trump, is that Trump was the reason why he gets elected the first time is because people looked at Clinton and were like, well, we know what we get with Clinton, which is a disaster for us, right? Like, that's how arrogant the Democrats have become, right? Is that they genuinely thought that they could go to states that Bill Clinton had outright fucked over. Like, outright, completely fucked over. Call them a bunch of deplorables and defeat anybody in an election, right? And Donald Trump showed them that, like, no, man, people are gonna lob a grenade into the political system. And that's really what Trump ends up being. He just ends up being like a grenade in the political system. Because he is considered an outsider, even though you and I both know that he's not, right? He's just not, he's an outsider to the political apparatus, but that doesn't mean he's a political outsider, right? He's just, politicians used to work for him, and now he works in that system. Anyway, you guys know what I'm trying to say. And but his appeal was always that he was a wild card, and near as I can tell, he's always been a wild card. Like, he did some things that were obvious. We all knew he was going to do. He was going to cut taxes for the rich, obviously, right? But like his position on war was, while not like, I'm not trying to say he was a peacemaker, but he definitely was not as ruthless as the Democrats, right? But by a lot, right? Like, he certainly wasn't as ruthless as Biden or Obama or Bush, right? And he's chased out the neocons from his own party, right? And so now there's this real, like, what's a second term of Trump even going to look like? It's just going to be completely wild, man. We don't know what's going to happen. Like, this guy's walking around, take the Ukrainian crisis, right? Trump's position on the Ukrainian crisis is that we should do diplomacy, make peace, and get out of NATO. Like, what? That's wild. That's wild, man. And I actually think that European nations are anticipating it. I actually think that European nations are looking at the United States and being like, yeah, that's probably going to happen. Like, the United States is probably going to leave NATO, right? And, like, the Republican position and Trump's position is that, like, why are we paying to defend Europe? They should defend themselves. My Trump sucks. I don't do a good Trump. I'm okay with impressions, but my Trump is not very good. I gotta improve. If I'm gonna do 4 years of Trump, I gotta improve that. But yeah, so, like, where's it gonna take us? What's it gonna be, right? Well, that's not believable. Trump also said he wanted to make peace with Russia, then hammered Russia with sanctions. I mean, but, like, a lot of those sanctions don't matter, right? Like, this is... I don't remember... Hold on. I don't remember Trump's sanctions. Let me... Trump's sanctions on Russia. President Trump sanctioned Russia. Biden gave them... No, I'm just curious. I don't remember Trump's sanctions, is the thing. Trump may be leaving. Russia sanctions will stay. Oh, yeah. But I wouldn't be too surprised to find out that Trump's sanctions on Russia are probably mainly self-serving and probably pretty weak. You know what I mean? There's no question, blah, blah, blah. 2 fundamental reasons for the increased use domestic... Well, and yeah, like, the domestic political situation. So I put sanctions on Russia. I'm tough on Russia, even though it doesn't actually matter, right? No, I'm not trying to say that his position sounds reasonable. Quite the opposite. I'm actually more or less of the opinion that the United States leaving NATO will be a disaster for Europe. Right? It's not like Europe's history is one of peaceful bunnies, right? It's not like Europe's history is all of Europe getting together and smiling and nodding at one another, right? Like, right now, it seems to me that the only thing that's keeping Europe from collapsing into internal war with itself is the fact that Big Daddy US is there with the hammer, right? Like, if the United States leaves NATO, and if NATO falls apart or whatever, right? Europe's probably going to descend into war. Like, and how do I know? Because that's what it's always done. Why wouldn't it do that? Right? Like, literally the only reason it hasn't in the last 50, 60 years is because the US has been standing inside of them. Being like, we're the United States. Peace! And all the European nations are like, yeah, all right, okay. Yeah, like, what are we going to do? Yeah, right? And so they've tried to talk with one another, but we've seen how successful that's been. Right? And if the United States suddenly leaves, if its military presence across Europe leaves, and if it leaves NATO, and if NATO falls apart, and all this kind of stuff, yeah, Europe's just going to go to war with itself. Because it's just what it's always done. Fun fact regarding glass. Peak sand is for realsies. Interesting. Adam letting us know there is such a thing as peak sand. I hadn't even thought about that. Just seems like sand is everywhere. I can never get rid of sand fast enough. I feel like I swept my apartment today and it was just full of sand. So when you say peak sand, I'm just like, I feel like sand is everywhere. I see one possibility of the next Trump exposing current corruption of Democrats along those lines. I mean, come on, man. Like, do the corruption of the Democrats need to be exposed? Like, I really, really, like, who are these, like, true dyed-in-the-wool, like, Democrat ride or die? Like, who are these people, man? Like, I feel like I have a pretty good grip on who the Trumpers are, like the mega crowd and all that. Who are these people voting for Democrats who are actually like, oh yeah, the Democrats are going so good? I think just by that statement I've realized that it is like the suburban housewives, right? It's like the Karens of the world. They're just like, Hillary should have definitely won. Hey, she for sure. That election was so, and America should have known better. For sure. Hitler's racial hierarchy theories came out of the blathering of a French aristocrat named Arthur de Gobineau. he was a liar and a cheat from the start. I mean, wait a minute, Watson. Racists being liars and cheats? Hold on. You can say what you like about Hitler as a racist and maybe a cheat, but a liar? When doing Trump, sniffing into the mic will help the impersonation. Like this? Like we're doing many... Oh no. Oh no. We're doing many great things. I know this is something. You got to do this. We're doing great things, many great things. We're just so many great things. They're coming our way. We're going to do so many good things. And the lips. I got to do the lips. China. Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, he seems to intend to utilize the violence of the U.S. foreign policy internally. Yeah, well, that's the inevitability of it, right? Like, we've known this since ancient Greece, right? Like, Athens did to itself what it did to the rest of the world, right? Like, that's how empires work. That what they do to the rest of the world, they turn around and do to themselves. Like, the only notable exception to this that I can really think of in recent memory is actually the British Empire. And because the collapse of the British Empire really was just an extension of the British Empire. That the British Empire didn't turn on Britain because it really just kind of grew and amalgamated and spawned into this like United States empire, right? That the British Empire became the United States Empire in a kind of a way. But it's coming, man. Like, it's right here. Like, he was also sending deadly weapons to Ukraine, yeah. No, I'm not. And again, like, I'm not trying to say that Trump's foreign policy sounds reasonable. I'm trying to say that it sounds wild. Like, it sounds different than what other leaders have said. It sounds different from Biden and Obama and Bush and the previous Bush and Clinton, right? Like, it sounds. It doesn't sound like the same kind of shit because it sounds wild. It sounds wild. And that's what people want. Because if there's a wild card, right? Like, if the choice is between definitely get fucked over and maybe not get fucked over, you're going to pick maybe not get fucked over. And with Trump, there is sort of this element of like here's a case in point. Here's something that I think a lot of Americans actually do think. Donald Trump gave me money. Like, during the pandemic, we got checks from Daddy Trump. Like, Trump gave us money. And when Biden got in, he stopped the checks. Right? Like, you're talking about a populace that never receives any benefit whatsoever from the government, suddenly getting something from the government under Trump, and then that goes away. Like, it's pretty convincing. If there's a second Trump presidency, this is going to be my prediction. One, there's going to be a lot more political division in the U.S. I mean, they're collapsing into a civil war, so yeah. There will be a lot more bombing in the Middle East without starting new wars. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much always been happening. He will increase his war on China. Yeah, and the trade war with China is so self-destructive and so self-defeating. Like, the United States is in this death spiral, man. Like, it's so obviously in this death spiral. Everybody knows it. It's like it really is like we're watching a 14-year-old just destroy themselves. You know what I mean? Like, in the way that only a teenager can do, where they're just like self-immolating, and it's obviously them doing it, and everybody around them is like, they want to be nice and reasonable and like a talk it out or whatever, and this person is just exploding. That's the United States right now, man. Like, China is just building relations with everybody around it. It's got like 4 times the population. The only threat that the United States actually has to China is militarily, and that's starting to no longer become actually serious, right? That, like, China is starting to develop technology now that is just going to be it's just going to be faster than what the United States has. Like, that's the big threat. Like, that's the big threat. Like, if you have a computer that's 10 times faster than their computer, you win. War over. Like, you can't fight, right? Like, if I'm able to hack into your system and fuck your shit over 10 times faster than you are able to defend against it, war's over. And, like, we're getting there with China. So this idea that, like, the United, like going into the future, the United States is going to be relegated as a backwater. It's just going to be pushed into the corner. It's even relegated as a backwater in terms of its location. Like, it's not part of the larger continent, right? It's just off on the side. Like, the only reason we think the United States is the center of the world is because we kept putting ourselves in the center of the map. But most of the world's population is not in America, right? Most of the world's population is on the Asian and African continent. Like, these guys are going to just take over, man. Like, I don't see how it can go any other way. Once they're out of NATO, USA may more freely choose its targets, I imagine. I mean, not that it was asking permission in the first place. The type of sand that we use for glass is not the same sand that's everywhere. Adam McPherson, spitting facts. First hit on Google lets you there when you type, have we reached peak sand? Bro, there's so much to know. There's so much to know in the world. Have we reached peak sand? Treehugger.com. Yet another thing we're running out of. Sand. What's to be done? Tweety suggests adding plastic to concrete instead of sand. Research suggests small particles of plastic waste, plastic sand, can replace 10% of the natural sand. We're running out of goddamn sand. Wild. Wild. Nah, man. I was not ready for this information, Adam. I was not ready for this information. Like, I was not prepared. I did not start this stream thinking I am 100% going to be told a fact that's going to absolutely blow my mind. We're running out of sand? We're so fucked. We're so fucked. Like, if we're running out of sand, you guys, if we're running out of sand, like, I can't get enough sand. I like sand. Like, I mean, I can't get rid of sand fast. Like, sand. Do I have to actually articulate why I think this is so mind-blowing? Like, isn't most of the planet made of sand? Like, isn't the Sahara Desert sand? Like, doesn't sand, like, is it, like, ugh. Like, isn't this all fucking sand? Isn't this all sand? Like, sand. And, like, I know that you're telling me, like, no, there's a special kind of sand, but you're telling, like, you can't, like, refine the process. We can't make, like, a sand refinery or something. Like, you're actually telling me right now that it is credible that we are running out of sand. We are so fucking stupid. Like, we're so stupid. How do we run out of sand? It's sand! I can't handle this. I can't handle that. It's so dumb. Like, it's absurdism. Like, this is the Dadaism that I'm talking about. We're gonna, well, sir, we can't build that building because we've run out of sand. Excuse me? We've run out of sand? That's correct. We've run out of sand. Sand. The thing that's everywhere constantly forever. Yes, that's right. We've run out of it. We've run out of the thing that the planet itself is made out of. Correct. We will have to mine asteroids for sand. Yeah. Let's read the article. Let's go. Have we reached peak sand? This was in October 11th, 2018. Oh my god. Yet another thing we are running out of. For years on Tree Hugger, we have talked about peak everything, having started with peak oil. So it seems really odd, you're telling me about it, to talk about peak sand, but in fact, we appear to be running out of the stuff. The problem is that concrete is 26% sand, and we are still making huge amounts of concrete. According to Neil Tweedy in The Guardian, about 2 cubic meters every year for every man, woman, and child on the planet. China leads the charge in today's sand-fueled construction boom, consuming half the world's supply of concrete. Between 2011 and 14, it used more concrete than the United States did in the entire 20th century. Aggregate is the main ingredient for roads, and China laid down 146,000 kilometers, 91,000 miles, of new highway in a single year. You would think that we had as much sand as we could possibly use. Huge deserts of it. But as noted in our earlier posts on this subject, desert sand has been wind-blown and eroded and evidently smoothed out, so it doesn't make good concrete. There's been some research into making concrete with desert sand, but it's still in the labs at Imperial College London. In fact, even in the middle of the desert, they have to import sand. Tweedy writes, a textbook example is the Burj Khalifa in Dubai, the world's tallest skyscraper. Despite being surrounded... There's literally a little bulldozer driving by my window right now. Alright, he's gone. Despite being surrounded by sand, it was constructed with concrete incorporating the right kind of sand from Australia. Riverbed sand is prized, being of the correct gritty texture and purity, washed clean by running fresh water. Marine sand from the seabed is also used in increasing quantities, but it must be cleansed of salt to avoid metal corrosion in buildings. It all comes at a cost. This feels so frou-frou, dude. This is literally no. You can't use that kind of sand. It must be this kind of sand. The problem now is the demand for sand is so huge that it is being dug up everywhere, legally and illegally. Why buy expensive sand sourced from licensed mines when you can anchor your dredger in some remote estuary, blast the sand out of the riverbed with a water jet, and suck it up? Or steal a beach, or dismantle an entire island, or whole groups of islands. That's what the sand mafias do. What in the fuck am I reading? And if the Chinese and Indians need it for building and highways, Americans need it for fracking. The grains of sand hold open the fractures that let the gas flow? What's to be done? Tweedy suggests adding plastic to concrete instead of sand and aggregate. Research suggests small particles of plastic waste, plastic sand, can replace 10% of the natural sand in concrete, saving at least 80 million, or 80 M, whatever this is, tons per year, whatever. My suggestion might be to simply use a lot less of the stuff, because the carbon footprint of concrete is a bigger problem than the footprint in the sand. Replace it in the buildings with wood, and just stop building highways and parking garage for cars, promoting rail, surface transit, no concrete subway tunnels and bikes, and electrify everything so that we don't need fracking. Then we can all ride our bikes to the beach. What the fuck is this? What the absolute fuck did I just read? What in the absolute fuck, you guys? No. I did not need to know that we fucking were importing sand. I just didn't need that in my, brain space. I didn't need in my like my consciousness this floating idea that like, hey, you know, we import that sand from Australia, you know. Like, what the fuck are you even talking about right now? What the fuck are you even talking about right now? Like, shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. Build with something else. I don't know. Like, fucking, you're telling me that we, like, no, but this sand is just, like, we're all standing around saying, we're gonna solve climate change with technical things. We're gonna create a technology that's gonna solve the world's problems. We're gonna create a technology and the problem will be solved forever. We can't create a technology to replace sand. We can't create a technology to alleviate the issue that is hitting peak sand. We can't just use the other sand. We can't come up with an idea to be like, how about instead of using the imported Australian sand, we use the desert sand that's literally everywhere? How about we use the sand that's in my backyard instead of importing sand from fucking Australia? Nope, don't have a technical solution to that, but we're for sure gonna make the technology to solve climate change. That for sure is gonna happen. Like, shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. We are so screwed. We are so fucking screwed. Like... This is so dumb. This is so unbelievably stupid. Adam McPherson, how dare you, sir? How dare you, sir? Oh my god. This like literally, like now what my brain is doing is it's taking this fact and it's comparing it to every other fact I have in my brain. And so now my brain is itself just laughing hysterically because of how stupid this is. It's so dumb that like, oh, you think you can solve climate change with technical solutions? Can't solve sand problem, right? Can't solve the sand problem. Oh, you think you can solve that problem? Can't solve the sand problem. Like, peak sand. What the fuck? It's just, and I just didn't need to know that we were importing sand from Australia. Breaking rocks in the hot sun, I fought the environment and the environment won. Like, yeah, like, crushed rock makes sand, no? Yeah, there's that too. There's definitely part of my brain right now that's like, nah, this is an article from The Onion. This isn't real. This is a fake news. Fake news. Russian propaganda. Russian propaganda. Russia wants you to think that that we've hit peak sand because they're hoarding all this sand. And so they can up the price of sand. Like, it can't be this way. Like, it can't be this way, can it? Like literally, like, we have commodified and exhausted everything to the point where it's starting to affect sand. Like, I think the reason why I'm so flabbergasted by it... Putin is the sand dictator! Exactly. The reason why I'm so flabbergasted by it is because it's just something that I had never even considered, you know? Like, it's never even been in my brain at all. Like, in my brain space, up until this moment... Sand is like literally, you can go outside and it's sand. It's the reason they use sand in everything is because it's everywhere. And the idea that we would like reach peak sand because there's a special sand, like, Yeah, exactly. Fun fact, Russians are hiding large deposits of sand under there, so it won't be too much longer. We'll get like Donald Trump being like, we've got to make sure that we secure these sand deposits, or else we won't be able to build our new triple-decker highway. And everybody will be like, yeah, triple-decker highway, vote Trump, yes. How is Doug Ford going to build that highway if he doesn't have any goddamn sand? If the Russians are hoarding all the sand, we need to start baking mud bricks in the sun straight away. That's right, forget concrete. Try running out of mud. Yeah, thanks, Silverlight. Bringing some goddamn sense into this conversation. Ah, Mr. Sandman, bring me a dream. And Mr. Sandman shows up. It's like, sorry guys, I ran out of sand. I can't sprinkle sand into your eyes and make you dream. I ran out of sand. Sand's too much of a premium. This is so dumb, dude. Like, this is too much for me. I can't actually get over it. Like, hold the fucking phone. I need peak sand. 75 to 90% of the world's natural sand beats are disappearing due partially to massive legal and illegal mining. The idea that there's illegal sand, the idea that there's illegal sand mining. Here we go. NPR. Dude, I can't even handle this shit. Like, what are you even? BBC, why the world is running out of sand. What am I even looking at? Like, for real, guys, like, I understood that there would need to be a place where people would go and get, like, there would be a place where people would get sand. I just sort of assumed that it would just be like a scoop. That would just be like, scoop, sand, scoop. The idea of, like, a sand mine. I just, like, bro. South African entrepreneur shot dead in September. 2 Indian villagers killed in a gun battle in August. A Mexican environmental activist murdered in June. Though separated by thousands of miles, these killings share an unlikely cause. They are some of the latest casualties in a growing wave of violence sparked by the struggle for one of the 21st century's most important but least appreciated commodities. Ordinary sand. Like, this feels like the plot of an episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where Charlie would be like, guys, you don't understand. We gotta invest big into sand now before the sand shortages come over and then the price will spike and then we'll all be millionaires. And everybody's just like, shut up, Charlie. There's no such thing as a sand shortage, you fucking idiot. Like, nobody's gonna buy sand for like $1 million. That's so dumb. That's not gonna happen. And that would be like the whole episode, and Charlie would be like trying to convince them constantly while they're trying to do some scheme with like diamonds or like even water, right, or oil or something, right? And meanwhile, Charlie is just like pulling out his hair because he's like, it's about the sand. Yeah, okay. Trivial though it may seem, sand is a critical ingredient in our lives. It is the primary raw material that modern cities are made from. The concrete used to construct shopping malls, offices, and apartment blocks, along with asphalt we use to build roads as connecting them, are largely just sand and gravel glued together. The glass in every window, windshield, and smartphone screen is made out of melted down sand. And even the silicon chips inside our phones and computers, along with virtually every other piece of electronic equipment in your home, are made from sand. And where's the problem with that, you might ask? Our planet is covered in it. Yeah, that was my assumption. Huge deserts from the Sahara to Arizona have billowing dunes of the stuff. Beaches on coastlines around the world are lined with sand. We can even buy bags of it at our local hardware shop for a fistful of small change. But believe it or not, and I still don't, I really gotta tell you, like, I'm still in that, like, fake news, Russian propaganda. The world is facing a shortage of sand. How can we possibly be running low on a substance found in virtually every country on Earth that seems essentially limitless? Sand, however, is the most consumed natural resource on the planet besides water. People use some 50 billion tons of aggregate, the industry term for sand and gravel, which tend to be found together every year. That's more than enough to blanket the entire United Kingdom. The problem lies with the type of sand we are using. Look, this is what kills me about this conversation, man. This feels so like Karen. Like, this feels like so like, are you fucking serious that we cannot figure this one out? That there's like, desert sand is no good. Like, we literally are incapable. We've hit the wall. The technological wall has happened. We've boom, desert sand can't be used. It's got to be this particular sand from this particular place, or else the whole process doesn't work. We are so fucking screwed if this is the case. Like, we're seriously standing around being like, we'll make technologies and those will save us. Nah, bro. Nah. Like, we can't use slightly different sand. The overwhelming bulk of the sand we harvest goes to make concrete, and for that purpose, desert sand grains are the wrong shape. Eroded by wind rather than water, they are too smooth and rounded to lock together to form stable concrete. Like, couldn't we like put a bunch of sand underwater for a while? Wouldn't like if the problem is that if the problem is that the sand has been eroded by wind and it needs to be eroded by water, can't we take the sand and just put it in water and then let it be in the water for a while and then take? Oh, this just feels so stupid. Like, this feels genuinely like I feel like the person, if an expert were telling me this, it would be like a Pixar cartoon character who is a circle, like maybe a bit of an oval, right? And he'd be wearing a hard hat, no matter what, and he'd be one of those guys that has like big eyebrows, so it's covering his eyes entirely, and he's got like the bushy mustache that covers his mouth, and I would be standing in sand. I'd be like holding sand as sand came out, and I would be saying to him, what do you mean we're running out of sand? And he would be like, yeah, we're running out of sand. I'd be like, well, what about this? And he'd be like, it's the wrong kind of sand. That's how this feels. And I would just be like looking at him, just being like, what are you talking about? Watch the hipsters catch flack when Soylent Brown toast replaces the avocado. Oh my god. A sand polishing business. You might be onto something. Yeah, I'm a fucking genius. I don't know if it was me that said that, but okay. Can we 3D print sand? Here we go. Take desert sand, put it through a 3D printer, get regular sand. Majors solved it. Majors solved it. But what about the sand that's already in the water? Where would you move that to replace it with the desert sand? Well, wouldn't we use that in the concrete? Isn't that the whole problem? Like, this feels dumb. Like, this feels too stupid. At least in the climate change conversation, I'm like, yeah, I guess electric cars make a kind of a sense. And sure, this feels like very much like a bunch of monkeys just like digging underneath their own house. And then when the house collapses, all the monkeys go, oh! That's what this feels like. Sand, you guys. Sand. We're so fucking screwed. Like, we're so fucking stupid, dude. Like, we gotta stop this shit. We gotta stop this shit. This is dumb. This is dumb. This is too stupid. See, and I think Silverlight's probably onto it. Cost is what they're complaining about. That's the issue. They don't want to add cost to their process, so they say it can't be done. Yeah, that's exactly right. It probably can be done. They're just assholes. The sand we need is the more angular stuff, found in the beds, banks, and floodplains of rivers, as well as in lakes and on the seashore. The demand for that material is so intense that around the world, riverbeds and beaches are being stripped bare, and farmlands and forests torn up to get at the precious grains. And in a growing number of countries, criminal gangs have moved into the trade, spawning an often lethal black market in sand. Here, somebody needs to make a movie about this and do it straight, and it would be the greatest comedy ever made. Everybody would be like, it's sand. Like, literally do do like Breaking Bad. Do Breaking Bad, but it's sand. It's sand. The issue of sand comes up as a surprise to many, but it shouldn't, says Pascal Peduzzi. Listen to this. This guy's name is Pascal Peduzzi. That Pixar character that I described to you with the mustache, Pascal Peduzzi is exactly the right name for that guy. And he's like, the issue with sand comes as a surprise to many, but it shouldn't, says Pascal Peduzzi, a researcher with the United Nations Environment Program. We cannot extract 50 billion tons per year of any material without leading to massive impacts on the planet and thus on people's lives. The main driver of this crisis is breakneck urbanization. Every year, there are more and more people on the planet, with an ever-growing number of them moving from the rural countryside into cities, especially in the developing world. Across Asia, Africa, and Latin America, cities are expanding at a pace and on a scale far greater than at any time in human history. The number of people living in urban areas has more than quadrupled since 1950 to some 4.2 billion today, and the United Nations predicts another 2.5 billion will join them in the next 3 decades. That's the equivalent of adding 8 cities the size of New York every single year. Sorry, Sahara Desert Sand, you're not good enough for us. Like, I feel like aliens are just looking at us just like, they could just use that sand, though. It's like, yeah, it's too smooth for them, though. Couldn't they somehow alter the process to use it? Yeah, they probably could, but they don't. The sand must flow. Yeah, everybody thought that the big commodity would be something that came out of the dunes. But the truth is that it's the dunes themselves. Creating buildings to house all those people, along with the roads to knit them together, require prodigious quantities of sand. In India, the amount of construction sand used annually has more than tripled since 2000, and is still, in fact, rising fast. China alone has likely used more sand this decade than the United States did in the entire 20th century. There's so much demand for certain types of construction sand that Dubai, which sits on the edge of an enormous desert, imports sand from Australia. That's right. Exporters in Australia are literally selling sand to Arabs. Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. No. That's the dumbest thing ever. Oh, mate. Yeah. Oh, you want to buy some sand, do you? Oh, all right. Where are we sending all the sand to? Yes, we'd like you to sell it to Dubai. Mate, don't you out there in Dubai, don't you have a bunch of sand? Yes, it's not the right kind. All right. Like, what about Wasaga Beach sand? I don't fucking know, dude. I'm not a sand expert. I'm not like a professional sandista or whatever. It's like what would we call it? A sander. I guess I am a Sanderson. I should know these things. This apparently used to be my family trade, I suppose. Yep, we're a good stalwart people selling sand across the... Like, literally the concept of selling sand. Like, the concept of selling sand. Like, what are you talking about? I literally just assumed that if your job was to be in construction and to build sand, that you would just go get the sand. Like, if you were making concrete, if you were a concrete guy, you would just get the sand. Like, set your depot in a desert and just be like, yeah, we're getting the sand, because it's sand. Sand's everywhere. Well, like, literally, just dig down and just get sand. And now I'm being told, no. It has to be a particular sand. It's got to be a sand from the Sandeist region of France. Like, it's fucking fine wine. We're all just here like, this wine is okay, but speaking of wine, dude, oh my god, I cannot handle this fucking story, Adam. Damn you. Sand. Like, this story definitely reminds me and shows me that there are gaps in my knowledge, which I anticipate. Right? I don't know everything. Right? I don't know every little thing that ever happens ever, right? Like, it's fine, and I'm here to learn, and I'm here to find out more, and the process of discovery is part of the joy of learning, right? But this one hurts my heart. Like, this one hurts my feelings. Like, I feel wounded by this story. Like, how is this even a problem? Like, now I need to know who's actually investigating this, because somebody's got to be, right? Somebody's got to be investigating, like, well, how do we take the desert sand and actually use it as concrete, right? Who's doing that? That's the guy I want to talk to. Now I'm thinking of like a big, tall, angly guy, still with the bushy eyebrows, still the bushy mustache, but it's white. And instead of a hard hat, he's got like the kind of thing. And that guy needs to explain to me, well, you see, the difficulty with using desert sand instead of the more the river sand is that it's far too smooth. Like, no, at this point I need charts. I need to see the molecular, like, yes, you see that this sand has the proper pronged 3 cells that connect properly with the ground over here, whereas this sand is lacking of that. Like, I need more than this. Like, this, I need this answer. I need this answer of, like, why can't we use the desert sand? Like, it just seems... And I know we can't. Because people from Dubai shipped some in from Australia. And they wouldn't have done that if they could just use their sand and it was slightly more expensive. Fun fact, Darth Vader's downfall was outlying sand, which led to a delaying and completing the Death Star, giving the rebels the upper hand. I've got it. Carbon nanotube sand. That's the answer. You've got it. Right? We've got to come up with a solution, and it's got to be the stupidest possible solution. It's got to be way stupider than that. Way stupider than that, Silverlight. Good try. Stupider. It's got to be stupider than that. This is a stupid problem. It needs a stupid solution. Thank you very much. Oh my god. Ugh. Lagos, the largest city in Nigeria, is adding 2,400 acre urban extension to its Atlantic shoreline. China, the fourth largest nation on Earth in terms of naturally occurring land, has hundreds of acres of miles to its coast, but built entire islands to host luxury resorts. This new real estate is valuable, but it often incurs steep costs. Ocean dredging. We're literally dredging the ocean. We're dredging the ocean. Mars! Adam, you did it. There's the stupid answer that I was looking for. Watson, good try, though. Close second. Collecting kidney stones and then grinding them up. Mars is the answer. What we need to do is we need to take fossil fuels and shoot rockets at Mars in order to harvest its precious sand. Oh! This is it. This is the real reason we're going to Mars. This is it. That they don't want to tell us. They haven't told us, right? They're just trying to capture our imagination and be like, yeah, Mars colonization or whatever, when in reality, they need to get to Mars to harvest its precious sand. The precious, precious sand. Like, this feels like an episode of Adventure Time, where, like, Finn is standing in a desert, and they're at a building, and the problem that, like, the little, like, fish man has is that his building is falling apart, and they need to fix it. And the guy says, one of the key ingredients is sand. And Finn goes, oh, that's great, bud. There's plenty of sand here. And then the guy goes, no, it needs to be the precious Mars sand. And Finn's like, that sounds donk. And then he gets sent on a quest to Mars to go get the fucking Mars sand, meets the king of Mars, has to solve like a Mars riddle in order to get some sand from Mars. And then, of course, he'd, like, get back down, and then he'd be like, so what was so special about this sand instead of this sand? And then the fish guy would just say something like, well, this is the right color. It matches. Like, I wish that I had that Harry Potter wand where they could put it against their head and, like, pull memories out. And I wish I could pull the memory of knowing this out of my brain. This is too stupid. This is too stupid. This is stupider than the oil thing. Like, the oil thing is pretty stupid, but I, like, see the path for why it's like this. This doesn't make sense at all. No, I shouldn't say it doesn't make sense, but it's just very stupid. Oh my god. Mining sand used in concrete and other industrial purposes, if anything, is, if anything, even more destructive. Sand for construction is often mined from rivers. It's easy to pull the grains up with suction pumps or even buckets, and easy to transport once you've got a full boatload. But dredging a riverbed can destroy the habitat occupied by bottom-dwelling organisms. The churned up sediment can cloud the water, suffocating fish and blocking the sunlight that sustains underwater vegetation. Like, everything we're doing is wrong and bad and stupid. Everything. Everything. No exceptions. Nothing. Like, it was bad enough when I would go outside and I'm, like, driving and there's cars, like, whipping by me and I'm thinking to myself, these fucking idiots burning this stupid fossil fuel so they can get to the jobs they hate and all of this. But now literally the buildings themselves. The buildings themselves. Like, we're in the midst of this housing crisis and everybody's like, we gotta build more homes even though we've got a bunch of empty homes that rich people own. But, so we're gonna build a bunch of fucking goddamn homes that rich people are gonna buy. And how are we gonna get the sand for that? We're gonna destroy the environment more. We're so dumb. This is so dumb, guys. Like, this is so bad. This is so bad. This is so dumb. We gotta stop. We gotta stop everything. Everything. Stop. Unless it's literally to get food into people's faces. Stop. Everything's gotta stop. Like, we gotta stop making these dumbass stupid toys. We gotta stop these stupid assholes who are on jet skis and all this kind of dumb shit. That's gotta stop. We gotta stop building these stupid fucking we gotta stop. We gotta stop. This is getting so fucking ridiculous. And thank you, Silverlight, for dropping that into my consciousness too, which is that we're destroying all of these ecosystems and destroying the planet so that we can build shit that falls apart in 50 years. Meanwhile, the pyramids are like, yeah, we've been here for 5,000 years. How you doing? Stop NASCAR. Stop NASCAR. Fuck NASCAR so hard. The only thing that NASCAR ever did that was any good to anybody was Let's Go Brandon. Let's Go Brandon. That was a moment. That was a moment that was pure and true. I'm gonna go get some wine. Fuck this. Oh my god. Oh my god. Why are we like this? It's so stupid. This fucking place is dumb. Like, share, subscribe. Tell people I exist. Watson, the last remaining habitable caves were mined for sand last week. So I hear. Adam, from the bottom of my heart, from one comrade to another, with all the love I have, fuck you. Oh my god. Like, share, subscribe. Tell people I exist. Give me some money. Give me some money if you've got any jingling around that pocket of yours. Always remember, guys, you are a quantum being, walking around in quantum energy. These psychopaths are doing everything they can to make sure you never realize it. You just stay the good little commodity they need you to be. Rebel. Revolt. Repent. Good luck. We're gonna need it.